My entitled sister-in-law refuses to put down the phone and stop filming our entire family for her content, as she is absolutely determined to become an influencer, despite the fact that everybody else in the family doesn't want to be filmed. But after she tried to force my daughter into being in her stupid content, I finally snapped at her and I put her in her place, telling her off once and for all in front of the entire family that the way she's acting is completely unacceptable. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and my sister-in-law has two boys ages 8 and 11 who are deeply into the Canadian hockey and baseball travel tournament lifestyle. She's a stay-at-home mom and went down the Instagram and TikTok family lifestyle influencer rabbit hole, and because of that, over the last year, she's leaned hard into the hockey mom thing by posting hotel reviews, game pictures, and travel tips. In fact, she wants to turn her page into a full family brand. When her boys were younger, she used to say that she wished she had a daughter to do girly stuff with, and so I included her in a few things with my daughter, like picking out her first communion dress and stuff like that. And back then, she was sweet, supportive, and genuinely the cool aunt to the family. But lately, every single family thing has become content. She films everything, stages candid moments, and even narrates like she's vlogging. At Christmas, she tried to dictate the whole thing. From the gifts all the way to the movies, it all became scripted. The older cousins hid in the basement to hide being filmed, and my daughter later told me that she hated being recorded and didn't want to be on my sister-in-law's page. Apparently, my sister-in-law kept pestering her to braid hair or decorate cookies, etc., all so that they could make content. But my daughter didn't know how to shut it down, so she just made herself as un-influencer friendly as possible by rolling her eyes or picking her nose, etc. Well, last weekend we went out with my mom for her 70th birthday, and my sister-in-law immediately started filming again, making the whole dinner awkward until her partner snapped at her to stop. During dinner, my daughter mentioned that she was going dress shopping for her 8th grade graduation, and when my sister-in-law heard this, she lit up and started pushing to come along, just so she could expand her brand into full family content. And even though I ignored her, she kept pushing it. In the parking lot, she asked again for the time and place, and at this point, I snapped at her. I told her that my daughter is not a prop. She's not her girl substitute, and she does not have permission to film or post her. She then got defensive and said that I was stifling her creativity, and that she needs my daughter because she doesn't have one. But at this point, I just told her off very loudly and colorfully. And sure, my daughter heard me swearing, but with two parents who work in construction, she's heard way worse than this. Later on, my sister-in-law started a group chat saying that I was rude, mean, and embarrassed her, and that everyone posts everything these days. In fact, she even demanded that I apologize. Well, I refused, and I just reiterated our boundaries. My siblings then also backed me up and said that they also don't want their kids in her content. And now my sister-in-law has not responded yet. I know I raised my voice, but she has ignored every boundary I've set, because you know what? My priority is protecting my daughter's boundaries. So unequivocally, I know that I'm not the jerk for that, and I will never apologize. However, my sister-in-law just didn't get it. So am I the jerk for yelling at her in the manner that I did? Because right now, I'm not sure what to do. Oh my gosh, I love this so much because I can't stand the sister-in-law in this story. Like, my God, if you want to try to create a brand of some kind and build content or anything like that, I say go for it. But you can't expect everybody else around you to jump on board like that. That is honestly obnoxious and so annoying. So no, you're not the jerk. This lady was not getting it, and she was trying to turn every family moment into content. And it's like, dude, I don't consent to that, and neither does my daughter. So please keep us out of it, because there's no excuse for that, and honestly, it's just intrusive at the end of the day. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not giving out my passwords to my current partner simply because we only just started dating and I feel like it's way too soon to take that step? Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been dating my partner for a couple of months now. This is my first real relationship, and recently they've been asking me for my social media passwords. I've been quick to shut it down in the past, and this weekend I was cooking dinner for them, and while we were eating, they brought the topic up again. I tried to steer the conversation in a different direction, but they just kept pushing the topic over and over again. So I reiterated that I don't feel comfortable sharing that information yet, as we've only been together for like a few months. But it's not a hard no, and we could revisit the topic later down the line. They got very quiet when I said that, and then after like a few minutes of silence, they took my plate and said that I should leave. I tried to apologize, but my partner just said I don't trust them and dumped the food in the trash. I've been trying to contact them all weekend, but they're not answering me other than to say that if I was serious about the relationship, I would give them my passwords. The whole reaction to of this situation has left me very confused because they've always been very level-headed before. I'm unsure if I violated some kind of like unspoken relationship rule, but I'm honestly not really sure. And for the record, they've given me their social media passwords unprompted too, by the way, but I decline to use them as I trust them and I see no need. So am I the jerk here because I don't know what to do right now? Okay, holy crap, you're not the jerk. This is way too soon in the relationship for anyone to be like, let me look through your social media. Like, bro, why do you need my password so badly? Like, this is really early and I just don't think that's appropriate. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. My girlfriend has scrubbed all photos of me from her social media presence and inside of her room. And at this point, I really don't know what to do about this. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my girlfriend and I have been getting into quite a few back and forth fights over the past month, and it feels like nothing is changing. And recently, she started removing photos of me from her Instagram. When I brought it up to her, she eventually removed me from everything entirely, including her highlights. We talked about this a couple of nights ago, and she told me she is simply exploring herself while in college and doesn't want social media to be the center point of our relationship. She also mentioned that in the past, she had asked me to post photos of her more often and felt I didn't do so regularly enough. Throughout the entire conversations, she was very cold and seemed almost emotionless, which made the interaction feel even more distant. Beyond social media, I've noticed that photos of us in her room have also disappeared. When I asked about them, she said the wall photos fell off a month ago, and the one on the desk fell behind and she was too lazy to pick it up, and the ones on her door were taken down because she bumped them and didn't want them to rip. While I expressed that this is bothering me deeply and impacts how I view the security of our relationship, she told me I was overreacting and accused me of stalking her pages, even though I literally only checked once. And she says this isn't going to change anything about it. And so at this point, I'm hurting and feeling very disconnected right now. So what are some constructive ways to handle a situation where a partner is physically and digitally removing my presence from their life while also remaining emotionally distant? How can I effectively communicate my need for security when my partner dismisses these concerns as overreacting? What should I do? Okay, it kind of sounds like your girlfriend's trying to cheat on you without feeling guilty about it. So she's taking down photos of like you all over her social media and in her room just so whoever this guy is that she's bringing over doesn't see it. Like all of her excuses are a load of crap, and any explanation of her exploring herself in college, in my opinion, sounds like, oh, I'm just gonna cheat on you and tell you later about it by breaking up with you. Like what the crap? This is absolutely not okay. And if anything, she's like silently quitting this relationship because the second you notice, oh wow, she's being emotionless and not really like following through with what I'm saying, that's the moment she broke up with you in her head and is just kind of like stringing you along instead of breaking up with you and being like, okay, I want to see somebody else. So yeah, either she's breaking up with you or she's actively cheating on you. And at this point, based on what you're describing, I kind of think that either one of those could be true. I refused to share my notes with a classmate who tried to get my scholarship revoked after they anonymously tipped off the school accusing me of plagiarizing my primary research paper. And now, after I refused to share my notes with them, I'm now being painted as this terrible person who's trying to tank this other guy's GPA. And at this point, I don't know if I'm the jerk and I really don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I'm in a high-stakes biochemistry seminar where the curve is brutal. There's this one guy who I will call Marcus who's been competitive since day one. We're both pre-med, but he treats every lecture like a gladiator arena. Last month, we had a major lab project, and I spent weeks on my data. A few days before it was due, I got an email from the dean of students saying an anonymous tip claimed that I had plagiarized my primary research from an online database. I then had to spend about 3 days pulling my hair out, gathering timestamps, rough drafts, and my browser history to prove the work was mine. Now, the investigation cleared me, thankfully, but the anonymous tip came from an IP address linked to the library's study corrals, which was during a window when Marcus was the only one logged into the nearby printer. Now, I can't prove 100% that it was him, but the timing and the specifics of the accusation were way too targeted to be anybody else. Then, fast forward to this week. Marcus caught a bad flu and missed the 3 most important lectures before the midterm. These lectures cover material that isn't in the textbook. It's all the professor's original research. And it was here that Marcus messaged me acting like we're best friends. He asked me for my color-coded notes and my recorded audio of the lectures. But you know what? I told him no. I didn't mention the snitching incident. Instead, I just said that I don't feel comfortable sharing my intellectual property with someone I'm competing against for a curve. When I did this, he flipped out. He started a group chat with other students saying that I'm trying to gatekeep the medical profession and that I'm being malicious by sabotaging his GPA over a few missed days. A few people are saying that even if he is a jerk, I shouldn't stoop to his level and risk his future. I feel like I'm just protecting myself from someone who already tried to ruin me, and at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, if I was in your shoes, first off, I would not give anything to this guy because it kind of does sound like Marcus was trying to sabotage you in some kind of way. And sure, you don't have 100% proof, but like, who else would do that to you? It seems like Marcus is the only one who's super competitive about this class, and I don't think it's completely wrong to be like, yeah, this was probably him. He was most likely the anonymous tip-off, and that really is concerning. So no, you're not the jerk. You're not responsible for this guy's future. You're not responsible for his GPA or anything else. And it's funny, the very people trying to be like, wow, you're ruining his like college career. Those people could also share their notes with him. Like if he couldn't get it from you, I'm sure other people could step up and help him out. Like, are you really the only person with the notes and like any kind of recordings he can go off of? I don't know. That's just super annoying and like really weird in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk, and based on everything we know, I think you did the right thing. Am I the jerk for not paying a partial amount on my roommate's $100 rent late fee? Because right now, I honestly feel like I shouldn't have to participate in that, despite the fact that my roommate really thinks that I should. Here's what's going on. I'm a 23-year-old female and I live with two other roommates. They're both similar age to me, and one of them I will call Nikki and the other I will call Katie. Our rent is split 3 ways, with Katie paying about $150 more than Nikki and I, since she's in the master bedroom with a private bathroom. Our rent is due on the 1st of every month, and if you don't pay by the 3rd of the month, a $100 late fee is added onto it. And if you don't pay by the 10th, an additional $50 fee is added. Nikki was late on rent this month because she had the flu, so a $100 late fee was added to our bill. Well, this past Thursday, Nikki texted Katie and I, stating that she thinks we should split the late fee because for one, Katie and I got our late fees waived, and technically one waiver is granted per apartment during a 1-year lease, and secondly, she's never been late on rent. I talked to Katie that night to see how she felt, and Katie felt that we shouldn't have to pay a partial amount. Katie's reasons are basically, well, one, she already pays close to like $1,000 for rent, and she doesn't have extra money. And secondly, if the shoe was on the other foot, Nikki would not pay a partial on a late fee. It also muddies the water if one of us gets another late fee before the lease is up. I mean, do we all pay the fee together again? Well, when Katie said this, I agree with her. I should not have to pay a partial on Nikki's late fee, since my late fee came from the apartment complex changing the system on how we pay rent the month that I moved in, meaning that it literally was not my fault because my payment didn't go through on time. The apartment manager then decided to give me a waiver due to not informing me about the system change when I met with her days before moving in. Also, I agree that if Katie and I had a late fee, Nikki absolutely would not pay a partial amount. I mean, she's extremely selfish, and trust me, that's a whole different story. I texted Nikki yesterday and I said I don't think it's fair for us to pay the partial amount, but she responded back by saying that it's fair because it's only $33, saying that we should all pitch in once again because Katie and I had our late fee waived. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I really don't think you would be the jerk for saying, no, I'm not going to pay for that, because your situation and Nikki's situation are totally different. You had your late fee waived because of an error on like the apartment complex's part, and not because you just forgot to pay the rent. Whereas Nikki's late to the game because she got the flu, which I totally have empathy for, but also it's like, dude, you need to pay your rent. You have to schedule around that, and it doesn't take that much to get online and just pay for it real quick. So no, I would never pay that late fee if I was in your shoes, because it not only sets up a really weird precedent, but it also doesn't remind your roommates that, yeah, they've got to pay on time, otherwise they're the ones that are going to have to deal with the penalties. So basically, if you're not paying late, then it really should not be your problem. Am I the jerk for refusing to share my location to my boyfriend during a company work trip? Because my boyfriend basically spells it out that he doesn't trust me and that he doesn't trust the male coworkers around me, despite the fact that literally nothing would happen. Because right now I'm really frustrated about this entire scenario and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I've been with my boyfriend for about a year now. I've been working at my current company for almost 2 years, and most of the time things between us were okay, though sometimes he could be a little bit controlling. I tried to brush it off before because I thought maybe he was just worried about me, but lately it started to feel more stressful than caring. Last week, our company organized a trip for the whole team. It was supposed to be a short getaway where everyone could relax, bond, and just take a break from work. I was actually really excited about it because I rarely get time like that with my coworkers outside the office. When I told my boyfriend about the trip, he immediately started asking a lot of questions about who was going and where we would stay. Before the trip even started, he asked me to share my live location with him the entire time. He said he had trust issues with my coworkers, especially the male ones, and that it would make him feel better if he could see where I was the whole time. I honestly felt uncomfortable with that request because it sounded like he didn't really trust me at all, and I just told him that I wasn't okay with sharing my location like that. After I refused, he kept messaging me and asking again, saying I should do it if I really cared about his feelings. The constant messages started to annoy me, especially since I already was trying to enjoy the trip with my team. Eventually, I decided to just stop responding to him for the rest rest of the company trip because the conversation was really stressing me out. For the whole trip, I focused on spending time with my coworkers and just trying to relax. We had activities, group dinners, and a lot of moments where everyone was just laughing and enjoying themselves. But in the back of my mind, I kept thinking about how frustrated I felt that something that was supposed to be fun turned into an argument with my boyfriend, all because he couldn't trust me enough to let me go without tracking where I was. So am I the jerk for not texting him right away and for refusing to share my location? What should I do? In my opinion, I think your boyfriend was definitely crossing the line. Can I also just say that I think being forced to share your location with your significant other is really stupid? Doesn't that feel like almost a trend nowadays where it seems like, oh yeah, inherently I'm gonna not trust you right off the bat. So you absolutely have to share your location with me if you trust me. Why is it always a question of trust? That is super annoying. You would think after a year that trust would almost be instinctual, where you could say pretty confidently that yeah, they're not gonna cheat on me and I don't have to worry about this. But clearly not, because obviously people just don't trust each other. That is so stupid. Dude, I am not out there cheating. I'm going to a work event. I'm not going and clubbing or getting with anybody else. I'm literally just there to do my thing and then come home. It really seems like a trend nowadays that people are like, oh, we have to share our locations with each other. And it's dude, what are you talking about? Just give it a rest. Is it really that serious that you can't trust me enough to go on a work trip? Because that is really annoying in my opinion. The original poster's been with them for a year. I'm sure they're not going out there saying, oh, I can't wait to find another guy. So yeah, this guy is kind of being controlling and definitely being a jerk by berating you left and right, saying, oh my god, wait, if you don't do this, you don't care about my feelings. Good lord, give it a rest, man, it's not that serious. So no, you're not the jerk, and I think your boyfriend is being a little obnoxious. Am I overreacting to the fact that my best friend literally didn't invite me or my husband to her birthday party and instead only wanted to invite people that could get her head socially? Because right now, after basically learning the truth, I feel like I'm at a crossroads with this friendship because I really don't know what to do here. Here's what's going on. For a bit of context, I live in the Hamptons where a lot of very wealthy people live. One of the moms in our circle, as well as myself, are from the same hometown out of state. And over the years, our families have become pretty close. Our kids are good friends and we spend a lot of birthdays, holidays, and family gatherings together. Her husband is extremely wealthy and very flashy about it. And on top of that, she has never worked. Despite that, she has always been personally very kind to me. She's done thoughtful things for my birthday and regularly invites our family to things. And she often says things like, oh, she considers me like family. Well, about 2 years ago, she had a big milestone birthday in New York City with around 50 people there. She initially invited me, but never followed up with any of the actual dates. We're talking nothing about the dates for the event, the hotel, the schedule, literally anything, and I just assumed plans were still being figured out. Then other friends started asking which hotel we were booking and if we were excited for the trip, and that's when I realized that something wasn't adding up. After talking with a few people, it became clear that my husband and I had not made the final cut. We weren't invited to the main event, a big birthday dinner at a Michelin star restaurant. Now, at the time, I tried not to take it personally. They know a lot of people and host big social events, and her husband especially has a huge network, so I assumed it was probably his guest list and maybe things just got really tight. And just to be clear, money or travel wasn't the issue at all for us. Going to New York City and staying wherever the group was staying would not have been a problem. So I just let it go and I moved on. Fast forward to last week and she was venting to me about another mom in our circle who she had been trying to become closer friends with. And it was here that she said something that really caught me off guard. She said very casually, I invited her to my New York City birthday because I wanted to build a relationship with her. I thought giving her that kind of invitation would help, but it didn't work. And you know what? Hearing that completely changed how I saw the situation. It suddenly made me realize that someone she barely knew got the kind of invitation that I didn't, even though she often tells me that I'm like family and we've spent years doing things together. It also made me realize the decision might not have been about her husband's guest list like I had assumed. It sounded more like she intentionally invited certain people because of the relationships that she hoped to build socially. I didn't even know how to respond in the moment. And in fact, I just changed the subject because it felt awkward and honestly a little hurtful to hear. Now for context, over the years, I've done a lot for her and her kids and genuinely considered her a close friend. I mean, our husbands still socialize, our families still spend time together, and our kids are still close. But that comment really shifted something for me, and I just can't quite shake it, and I'm now questioning our friendship. So am I overthinking this, or would that also bother you too? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, this seems like one of those people who like pretend to be your friend until they realize that you have nothing to offer them. And then they move on to someone else because they're like, oh, but this person can help me get ahead. And it's like, bro, I can't stand people like that. You're not a real friend and I hate that. So honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would probably start distancing myself because this really is the truth of the scenario. She doesn't see you as a close friend or someone worth inviting to her own birthday party. And if your families are really as close as you're saying, then this kind of behavior is completely unacceptable and honestly, it's something I would never let go. My entitled stepsister demands to move into the house my late father left me without her being expected to pay anything towards rent or literally anything with the house. But after she mistreated me and my father for the entirety of my childhood, I decided to shut her down and say no, choosing instead to keep her out of my house as she has literally never treated me like family. Here's what happened. Okay, so my dad passed away last year and left me his house. It is fully in my name. Now there's no drama about that part, but here's what's getting really wild. My dad had been married to my stepmom for about 12 years. She has a daughter who we will call Claire, who I was never close to ever. We were teenagers when our parents married, but Claire made it very clear that I wasn't real family. She never called my dad by the name Dad, would exclude me from anything she planned, and simply loved telling people that we weren't related. And you know what? I just accepted it and moved on. After the funeral, which Claire didn't even attend, she messaged me, not to say sorry, not even to offer support, but instead to ask if she could move into the house for free. She said that she was struggling and that we were sisters now, and that dad wouldn't want her to be homeless. Meanwhile, she barely acknowledged my dad when he was alive, only showed up when she needed something, and now she wants to live in the one thing that he left me. Well, I told her no, I'm living here, and I'm not about to share it with someone who never treated me or my dad like family. When I said this, she flipped out and said I was punishing her for being a dumb teenager. Then my stepmom messaged me too, saying I was heartless and that family is family. But Claire never treated us like family until it became convenient for her. I'm just protecting what my dad left me. Okay, honestly, dude, this is absolutely ridiculous that your stepsister's acting like that. She didn't even have the decency of showing up to the funeral. You know, the bare minimum of what she would be expected to do. Like, good lord, that is so unbelievably entitled. And not just that, it's just toxic and nasty for no reason. From the sounds of it, you guys didn't do anything to Claire. I'm willing to assume that she had some kind of decent childhood, and her only grievance was that she now had step-siblings and a stepfather. So for her to not even apologize for the way she acted, but also to sit there and be like, oh, I was a dumb teenager, you can't blame me. Like, that's just stupid in my opinion and completely unacceptable. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. I would return the favor and be like, sorry, but it seems like you're gonna have to figure something out. Because last I checked, we're definitely not sisters. Because if we were sisters, you would have treated me better when we were growing up. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. A car dealership I've never been to keeps contacting me by mistake, as some idiot literally put down my email address as a contact for whatever they're trying to do with their car. And despite the fact that I've begged them to please take my email address off of your system, they have yet to listen and instead just completely ignore me, forcing me to take some petty revenge that I'm sure they were never expecting. Here's how I did it. Okay, I live in the United States and I kept getting emails for someone else's car appointments from a dealership in another state. I was able to figure out the person's actual email address, so I messaged them to let them know the wrong email was in the dealer's system, but unfortunately they never responded to me after several messages being sent. My next step was to contact the actual car dealership, which was very easy. I spoke to at least 3 different people over the course of like 4 or 5 months, and they all assured me that they would update the information, but as you can probably guess, nothing ever happened. So I then took it upon myself to mess with all of them. I would reply to the emails that the appointment needed to be rescheduled. In some cases, I would get notified of my upcoming appointment, and I did that for probably a year. I could tell based on the emails that the vehicle was a new vehicle, so they must have had some kind of standard free services like oil changes that they were providing and setting up appointments for. After the first year of doing this, I decided I wanted to sell the car. I used one of the calculators the dealership provided, and I would set up phone calls to have sales reps contact me to discuss trade-in value and what kind if a new car is what I was looking for. And I can assume it was really confusing to the car owner when they were getting those calls. Now, over the course of this, I would also get surveys, and I would always indicate in the email that I would like a call back. And this is kind of a 2-for-1 petty revenge, one for the owner of the vehicle and one for the car dealership. Eventually, I stopped getting emails, but honestly, this should have stopped a long time ago. Holy crap, this would drive me up a wall. I get so many emails throughout the day, and the fact that they're not able to like take my email out of their system after calling like 3 different times, like dude, there is no way I would put up with that. That is super frustrating. So I love the fact that you stepped in and said, okay, we're gonna get some weird revenge on these people. Because honestly, this is exactly what you should be doing, especially if they're just gonna ignore you for months at a time. Like this literally is the least you could do, and honestly, I love the fact that you inconvenienced them because they absolutely deserve this. Am I the jerk for not giving an older coworker a ride home after she called me slow at work after I made a mistake that honestly I was trying to avoid? Because right now she is guilt tripping me hard and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's how it happened. I'm a 23-year-old female and I've started a new job a few weeks ago and I'm still learning where everything is and how to do my job properly. I work in a big store and also have a learning disability, so it takes me a bit longer to learn things than the average person. I work with this older lady in her 50s who has been training me, and unfortunately I messed up a few times yesterday. This lady had been working at the store for about 20 years. I was raised by my grandparents, and I understand older folks can say things that may come off as offensive, even if they don't intentionally mean to. Well, she laughed at me and told me that I've been here for a few weeks, and I shouldn't be making mistakes. She had asked me if I drove myself to work, and I said yes, and she continued to laugh again, and asked me how I didn't get lost, implying that I'm slow. Now that really bothered me because as I mentioned above, I do have a learning disability, and I really do try my best at work. She was complaining about me to management, telling them that I was too stupid to even function, that they need to stop hiring slow people, and that they should just fire me altogether. The next time I saw her, I explained that I have a learning disability and that it takes me a little bit of time before I can get things perfect. I also told her that her comments were making me uncomfortable, and if there was any way that we could get past this. When I said this, she told me that I was being too sensitive and that my generation just can't take criticism anymore. At that point, I honestly decided to stay away from her and just focus on my job. Some of the comments she was making about me were making me feel uncomfortable. Now, I hope I'm not being overly sensitive, but I don't appreciate being insulted and verbally mistreated even after I try to communicate and talk it out like an adult. Well, fast forward to the end of the shift, and she followed me to the bathroom and asked me if I could give her a ride home. But you know what? I just told her, well, not today. And when I said that, she tried to make me feel guilty because of how old she is, and that I was denying an older woman a ride home. She then stated that I was being immature and that I was holding a grudge on her because of what she said. I walked away from her because I just wanted to go home and not have any more confrontation. But you know what? I honestly was just not comfortable giving her a ride home. I don't even know this woman. I also wasn't happy with the fact that she insulted me multiple times during the shift and made some comments about me that were completely uncalled for. I try to be kind and help out whoever I can, but I'm also not going to go out of my way for someone who has insulted me and made me feel uncomfortable. So seriously, with all things considered, am I the jerk for denying an older woman a ride home? Because right now, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, your coworker's being super inappropriate. She seriously is going to sit there and be like, wow, you're slow, you deserve to get fired. And then in that same sentence be like, hey, can you give me a ride home? Oh, you're not going to do it? Wow, you are so incredibly awful. It's like, dude, what are you talking about right now? You literally insulted me and called me slow in front of my manager. Why should I then be obligated to give you a ride home all because you're an old woman? And also, on that same note, if I was in your shoes, I would be reporting this lady to management of some kind. This behavior is so abnormal, it's not even funny. You don't deserve to get treated this way, and you absolutely should not have to put up with it. So no, you're not the jerk for denying this idiot a ride home. As far as I'm concerned, she can walk for the rest of her life, especially if she's going to call you slow and insult you in this kind of way. An entitled Karen bullies someone over a public airport seat, literally causing a disruption that I honestly think could have been completely avoided. Here's how it happened. Okay, so I overheard this conversation in the lobby area outside my flight's gate today, and I honestly could not believe it. A lady came up to the woman sitting behind me and said something along the lines of, "You're sitting in my seat and I'd like it back." When the woman, sitting reasonably, said, "This is a public area, you can't just reserve a seat and expect people to get up for you," this lady went on a whole tirade. Something about how she'd been sitting there before, it's her seat, and she left to go to the bathroom for like 5 minutes, and she expects to be able to sit in the same place when she returns, which seemed kind of odd and unreasonable. Then she tried to shame the woman and said, "You see I have a brace on, I have a disability, just let me sit down," which would be kind of reasonable if she'd asked nicely. But here's the thing, there's also a bunch of seats all around, including right next to where they were. The woman sitting said this didn't have to be a big deal, and while normally she would probably just get up, she said she wasn't going to respond positively when people are being rude to her, her. Then some other lady joined in and they were basically both berating the woman sitting over an extended period of time. They even tried to move her bags without her permission and would simply not let it go, even after the seat leaver sat down right next to her old seat. At a certain point, I asked them to please stop because it was just unnecessary conflict for no reason, and they seemed to actually think I was taking their side as they bullied someone for no reason. It was honestly very delusional and very entitled behavior. Okay, someone in the comment section said exactly what I was thinking. They literally said, oh, I would sit in that seat until the end of time, and oh my god, I feel the exact same way. If you're gonna come at me with that kind of heat, then you better be prepared to catch the smoke, dude. There's no way I'm gonna put up with that. Seriously, what did she really think was gonna happen? Did she really think she could bully someone and treat them like garbage, and somehow they would be like, oh, you're right, I'm sorry I sat here. My bad, I'll move out of the way. No, dude, at that point, you're giving them a license to double down. They're never gonna stand up now. They're gonna sit there forever. And I know for a fact, if I was the person getting yelled at, I would sit in that seat and be smug the entire time, because that crappy behavior absolutely deserves to get punished. My job forces me to deal with big parties at a restaurant I work at, and the one complaint I have is that people never remember their order, and I'm truly so done dealing with this that I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that this is really a big rant because this is something that's really been annoying me lately about my job. Now, I need to emphasize that I'm not a server at the restaurant I work at, but instead I am a busser, a runner, I do expo, and I'm a host, and often all at the same time because the place I work at is severely understaffed in those positions. I don't know any other place to put this, so here I am posting my story on the internet. I work at a restaurant that is affiliated with a sports center, so we get big parties in the form of sports teams on the weekends. And typically a big party ranges from anywhere between 12 to 30 people, but sometimes tables bigger than that can pop up from time to time. Even though I'm often feeling tired after weekend shifts, the people working are great, management is amazing, but sometimes the customers get under my skin to a degree that's honestly quite infuriating. The last 3 weeks have been something to behold when it comes to these big tables. For instance, we had one big party of 26 people, and not only did they spread out and take up 3 of our biggest tables, but they also made passing out the food difficult because nobody remembered what they ordered. At one point, I had to go to all 3 tables with a medium cheeseburger with no tomato and no cheese, and when I got to the table that all the kids were crammed at, they all yelled and laughed at me, saying, and I quote, "What idiot gets a cheeseburger with no cheese?" And mind you, these kids were at least 15 years old. The parents then started crowding me to get their kids, and yet I had a line full of food that needed to go out to the other tables during lunch rush, so I was definitely overwhelmed to say the least. Last week, we had another large party of 24 people. Nobody claimed their food, and it took 4 times as long as it should have to get the food to the right person, and then 10 minutes later, we get complaints from the table that they were missing a plate of chicken tenders. And then 5 minutes after that, the server came in and told us that somebody was switching around plates and nobody at the table had the right food. The plate of chicken tenders, which had been delivered to the first tables, was taken by some kid at the second table. And trust me, we know, we literally counted. But my last shift was a nightmare in and of itself. I was doing all 4 previously listed jobs at once because we had no host, and we only had 2 servers until 2:00 p.m. I didn't have time to breathe considering it was Saturday, which is when most big games happen in the sports center. But through it all, I had only one request for the day. Please, just please, let me go home on time that day specifically because I had a brother and sister-in-law visiting, and they were severely jet lagged, especially because they had my niece and nephew with them, who go to bed early anyways under even regular circumstances. Well, not only did I end up clocking out nearly an hour later than I was scheduled, I was surprised with a request to train the new guy in the last hour of my actual shift. Luckily, the evening host was there by then, but I'm not afraid to say I had quite the breakdown in the car on the way home. The customers were particularly annoyed that day too because service was slow, and for the big parties, lo and behold, and you'll probably never guess this, most people didn't claim their food. And to the one party of 12 that did know what they ordered, oh god, thank you for working with me. But that was like one party out of several. And sure, we get big parties all the time, but please, to anyone who might be reading this who's part of a big party, please work with us and remember what you order. Sometimes runners don't have servers to help them, let alone notes on what dish goes where. If you order a grilled cheese, don't say you ordered chicken tenders. I'm not saying memorize everybody's orders at the table, but if I call out your food, maybe raise your hand or something. It helps a ton, especially when we have a full restaurant. Okay, dude, I cannot describe to you how much I relate to this post. Like, dude, I have played these games before, bro. I know exactly what this is like. It is the most frustrating thing in the world. You're telling me that you can't remember the single thing that you ordered to eat that night? Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, dude, get a grip, figure out what you ordered, and seriously pay attention when I show up. Because the original poster is like living my life wife like just a few years ago, like, dude, you gotta be kidding me right now. You're telling me, the person who works here, that you don't know what you ordered? I literally can't stand your kids and you're telling me you don't know what you ordered to eat tonight? Like, dude, what are you even doing here? This is some weird convenient amnesia that I'm having to like sort through. Like, what is going on right now? So to the original poster, I know your pain, I know your struggle, and my God, I know exactly what you're going through. Because this does really suck as much as they're describing, and I would not wish this on my worst enemy. Two entitled boomer couples make a scene at a local Taco Bell after they refuse to use the kiosk to order their food. And I'm honestly blown away by the way they acted because this really was not that big of a deal. Here's how it went down. So anyone who's been inside of a Taco Bell within the past few years knows that they've done away with their cashiers. They still have employees who handle transactions if you need to pay by cash, but otherwise you place your order on kiosks. Personally, I think this is best for everyone, all things considered, as you can customize your items however you want, and the employees can focus on making orders instead of having to take orders. Now, I've always heard stories of boomers freaking out when they have to use them, but had never actually encountered it until today. In walks boomer couple number 1. They notice other people placing orders on the kiosk, so they walk up to them. A few minutes later, I hear a commotion, and I notice the wife starts yelling about how it's too confusing, and how could anyone use these? Why am I expected to use this? Well, cut to the annoyed employee who has to walk over and place their order for them. Not even 15 seconds later, she places their order for them, and they're still mumbling under their breaths about how stupid this is. But then 20 minutes later, in walks boomer couple number 2. I wonder if the same thing's gonna happen, and sure enough, it is. First, they walk up to the counter and start staring at the electronic ads that are playing. An employee notices they're confused and asks them if they need any help. They then say, well, where's the menu? Why are there only pictures of your food up there? The employee then has to explain that the menu is on the kiosk and they don't take orders at the counter. The look on their faces when this was said was so bizarre, like the employee had just personally insulted them. They take one look at the kiosk and they give a flat, no, we aren't using that. You're gonna take our order or we're just gonna leave. Well, cut back to the annoyed employee from the first interaction, walking right back over to the kiosk to place the couple's order. They then start freaking out because they don't want to place an order at the kiosk. They want the employee to take the order at the register. The employee explains again that they don't do that anymore, and she once again tries to start their order on the kiosk. The boomer couple then argue some more before giving in and telling the employee their order so she can punch it into the kiosk. She goes into the back to make their food, and the boomer couple move to the side, and I hear them make some kind of remarks about, oh, how can these people expect to make $15 an hour if they won't even take our order? Which honestly is an insane thing to say because this really is the easiest thing to figure out. Okay, this is so annoying and just completely weird in my opinion. Like, seriously, the kiosk at any of those like restaurants could not be easier. I'm kind of indifferent about them. Like, if it's there, I'll absolutely use it and I totally get it. But to stand there in front of everybody and make a scene out of that, like, dude, you've got to have some real like lack of social awareness to make that happen. Because you would not catch me dead acting like that. I would just walk up and do it and get it out of the way. Like, I don't want to be there longer than I need to. So yeah, this behavior is really dumb in my opinion, and there's just no reason to freak out over this. My entitled toxic coworker refuses to listen to me when I say he needs to keep his crap off of my stuff, forcing me to get revenge in a way that he will truly never forget. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I design and make leather gear that I sell at Renaissance fairs around the country. I do this with a couple of business partners, and we travel together in a large RV that we use as both living quarters and workshop. Now, me and one of my partners do most of our work on large, very expensive, very specific industry leather sewing machines. She and I have a rule that no one may touch our machines or place anything on the attached sewing tables without our express permission. They are our livelihood. They easily break, and they're both expensive to purchase and incredibly costly to maintain or repair. When they break down, it means we can't produce more products, we can't keep up with the sales, and it can be very difficult to find a specialist qualified to make repairs, hence the no touching rule. Well, we used to have this partner who refused to respect this boundary, and it's funny because he would have a meltdown if anyone touched his work area, but he also had zero consideration for anyone else's space or work. He would constantly pile anything and everything on and or around our machines. He always claimed he forgot or the area was clear so it was okay for him to use it. This guy had an all cast iron, non-enamel Dutch oven that he would use, clean, oil, and then just leave on the sewing tables. And I would have to scrub the work surfaces every time he did this just to be sure the cooking oil didn't stain into the leather. Not to mention that he would always bang into the machines and we'd have to fix and readjust them before they would even work again. The first time this happened, we asked him nicely to please not do it again. On the second time, we told him to stop his disrespectful actions. But when the third time came around, we finally decided enough was enough. So I took his extra oily, giant giant heavy pot, and I put it on his bed under the covers, half on the mattress and half on the pillow. And when I did this, oil and cooking grease soaked into everything. And you know what? He headed to bed late and had to change all of his bedding before he could go to sleep. And yes, he absolutely had an enormous fit in the process. But I told him, well, the area was clear, so it must be okay for me to put stuff there, right? Well, after I did that, he never put anything on the sewing tables ever again. We severed ties with him not too soon after that, as you might expect. And no, this was not the only manifestation of his penchant for being a complete jerk. Because trust me, this is only the tip of the iceberg, and honestly, I'm glad we parted ways. Oh man, this would really piss me off. Imagine you have a sewing machine that literally is your job. If that thing breaks and you can't use it, then guess what? You can't work, you can't pay your bills, and then everybody suffers. So for this idiot to put his Dutch oven all over their workspace was just completely unacceptable. Because holy crap, does he know better? Like, dude, the second someone asked me, hey, please don't put your stuff there, I would make a serious mental note that no, I cannot put it there and I need to find a new home for this. Because otherwise you're screwing with someone's like livelihood, dude. You can't do that. And it doesn't sound like these are like your run-of-the-mill sewing machines. These sound incredibly expensive and very particular. Not to mention it's sewing together leather, like a really hard substance, so it's probably a very specific machine. So for him to break it when they're at a Renaissance festival in like the middle of nowhere, like I don't blame the original poster for being pissed off beyond reason. So in my opinion, I think the revenge they enacted on this guy was completely deserved. This guy was disrespecting your space, he was not listening to anything you're saying, and he was hindering your ability to make money and make a living. So I think it was only right that you return the favor and hinder his ability to get a good night's sleep. My mom's new psycho husband demands that we hand over our entire inheritance from my mom after she passed away recently, claiming that he deserves it way more than we do, despite the fact that he has literally made our lives a living nightmare for far too long. Here's what happened. So I've been reading these posts for ages, and I'm always shocked at the level of entitlement some people feel. This happened a few years ago to my sister and myself, and I figured I'd share some of the madness that comes my way as well. Mine and my sister's mother passed away whilst my sister and I were in our early 20s a few years ago. Unfortunately, our father is not involved, so we are very much a small family unit now. Prior to this, my mom did not make great decisions, especially regarding her chosen partner. After being the other woman for 7 years, he divorced his first wife and married my mom 6 months later, and my mom sadly passed away a year later while in her 40s. Now, her chosen partner, let's call him Richard because he's a complete jerk, was a completely disgusting loser. He had been leering and making comments to my sister and I for years, and my mom just didn't care as long as she was happy. She even told me once that she would choose him over me if it came to that. Now, this is to say that my sister and I despise this man with our very souls, and the only reason that we put up with him was for our mom. So our mom passes away, and we now ask ourselves, now what? Well, Richard is made executor for the estate as per my mom's will. He gets to live in her house until he dies, even though it's in mine and my sister's names. But any money is to be distributed to my sister and myself. And as you can probably tell, this was definitely not Richard's plan. I very luckily work in the same offices that were handling my mom's estate, and I get asked one day to sign some documents, and thank God I noticed that Richard had put his account as the payee rather than the trust for myself and my sister. This is also about $500,000 in our currency, by the way, that he has elected to pay out to himself with no instruction from the will, and have my sister and I sign it away under the guise of handling everything for us. Well, my sister and I immediately cut him off. We shut down the transfer and began the legal proceedings to have him removed as executor. My grandfather, who adored my mom to the ends of the earth and back, tried to speak to Richard to see why he would do this. But according to Richard, he deserved it. After putting up with my mom and her kids, he deserved to be paid, and he deserved to live in her house for free until he dies. This man, who was making suggestive comments to both me and my sister, who pressured my family into uncomfortable situations, who convinced my mother that my sister and I were just against them, felt that he deserved more than my sister and I. You know, the two people who had just lost their mother. Like seriously, what's going on? Well, I made sure to put him through Hades. Lawyers meetings after lawyers meetings, which thankfully led to him moving out and give up any executorship, but he still ended up getting some money in exchange for disappearing from our lives. All I can hope is that his entitled self is just lonely, bitter, and miserable. Karma is the fact that he is divorced, a widow, and his kids won't even speak to him, and no amount of money is ever gonna fix that. Holy crap, imagine having somebody step into your life like this for less than a year, treat you and the rest of your family like crap, and then try to steal your inheritance from your mom. Like, this guy is definitely not your stepdad at all. This is just your mom's partner that unfortunately she flocked to for some stupid reason. Like, you don't deserve this kind of crap for a second. So I am so glad that you got him out of that house and out of your lives, because the alternative is you not reading those papers and unintentionally giving everything away to that weirdo, which would have been an absolute nightmare to deal with, especially considering how creepy this guy's been in the past. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I got offered a job at a fine dining restaurant, but I'm really turned off by the interview process that I went through, as I felt very dismissed and very rushed, leaving me wondering if this is the place I should work at or if I should run away and find something else. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to preface this by saying I only have 5 months experience at a casual chain restaurant, but I have been applying to jobs because I'm not making that much money, and one of those jobs was at a fine dining establishment. I receive a text giving me 2 interview times to choose from. I choose the date, which was 2 days later, and then come in the day of and was greeted by the hostess. She then asked me which manager got a hold of me, since there was currently no manager on duty. She then proceeds to tell me that the manager that messaged me was actually off that day, so the restaurant owner would interview me when he comes in. About 15 minutes later, he walks in, asks me for my name and a handshake, and then says he'll be right back with me. He starts doing other things with the employees and such, probably helping with opening procedures, but I'm honestly not really sure. He then comes back to me, apologizes, and starts speed walking to a conference room as I try to keep up behind him. He then tells me to take a seat and then began to ask me what job I was applying for, if I ever worked in fine dining, why I want to leave my current job, etc. Now, overall, the interview felt very dismissive. He would interrupt my answers halfway through them because he had to answer a text message, and even got up at one point to scold his employees for letting the phone ring over 3 times. He literally screamed, "This isn't how we set up ourselves for success. The phone was ringing too long. Go check your sections." And mind you, there were no customers at the restaurant. They had just opened and everything was already set up. At this point, I'm feeling like this was almost a show to try and get me to leave, and I was wondering why I was even asked to interview in the first place. But he then tells me that training is for 2 weeks, and then asks me if I'm up for it and if I can do the classroom training since there's so much that I need to learn. I said I was willing to learn, but that I will get back to him by tomorrow. So honestly, is it worth going in to try and train? I really did not enjoy how the interview went, and the first impression was not good at all, but I need the money and fine dining seems the best way to go for it. So should I still go and see if this is like a right fit for me? Because at this point, I'm not sure what to do. Okay, in my opinion, this sounds like a nightmare waiting to happen. Like, some people in the comments section have said this pretty well, but yeah, this guy sounds like an egomaniac. He probably wanted to set himself up as like this go-to boss who's like, "Oh yeah, we answer the phone on the first ring, not the third ring," and literally is interrupting you the entire time to pretend like he's answering a text message. Like, dude, come on, this is so stupid. And I think you're right to be like, "Oh yeah, this seems super performative," because that's exactly what it is in my opinion. He's making you wait to have your appointment. He's trying to micromanage and act like he's super involved in the restaurant, because I guarantee you that not only is this classroom training gonna suck, like you're probably not gonna learn anything valuable, but also I bet you anything you will never see this owner ever again. He will disappear into the shadows and collect his paycheck like he always does. So yes, if this was me, I would be running for the hills, because this job does not sound like a good one, and I'm sure you can do way better than this. My work colleague makes my life a living nightmare, as they demand that I do the same work as everybody else, despite the fact that I have an injured back. So I decide to maliciously comply by getting a note from my doctor effectively banning me from any physical work for like 3 months, which then makes my colleague incredibly angry in the process. Here's what's happening. Okay, the background here is that during work, I had an incident that damaged my back. I had slipped discs that just didn't resolve, and subsequent additional damage due to unnatural wear and tear from compensating for poor posture. And so as a result, I had a fit note that cleared me for light duties. Now, most of my store team were and are incredibly supportive for my various limitations, and these guys are my family even years later. Depending on whether I was having a good day or a bad day, they would shuffle things around just to accommodate. We did that for everyone. We worked to accommodate whoever needed a helping hand. And I just wanted to clarify that because I wasn't given special treatment. But my main difficulty is standing still, because when it comes to sitting or walking or even moving around, found I am completely fine. On a good day, I can stand at the self-checkouts for a couple of hours with some pacing, but on a bad day, not at all. Good days, I can work delivery or backstock, but on bad days, I did decarding, facing up, I did putbacks, I did write-offs, and I was sitting on the tills. Well, unfortunately, one colleague was not very supportive. She considered it drastically unfair that everyone worked around my damage. She hated this so much that she went above everyone to file a complaint to the store manager that I should be forced to do self-checkouts as well. Sunday evening, a charming message was sent to the work WhatsApp group by one of the lower managers, stating to us that going forward, having paid here and there so you can't do self-checkouts or you can't do delivery will no longer be accepted. Unless you have a fit note, you can't refuse to do your task. I was scheduled to work on Monday, and thankfully it was a closing shift, so I had a narrow window to work with. On Monday at 8 o'clock, the stars aligned, because I was blessed to snag a telephone callback from my general practitioner. And if you're from the United Kingdom, then you'll know how hard it is to talk to a doctor, let alone even see one ever since the plague, because trust me, it's an absolute nightmare. Anyways, I explained the situation to her and she was furious. And with that, she emailed me an amended fit note to hand it into work. That afternoon, I cheerfully went in and handed it to the duty manager for the shift, who read it and then started laughing so uncontrollably before letting me get started. Basically, I had a 3-month note that prohibited me from any lifting, pulling, standing, or anything remotely strenuous whatsoever, and stated frequent regular breaks, effectively barring me from all tasks that I did on good days. Well, apparently that colleague blew a gasket. She filed a complaint with the area manager, who dismissed it, to which she told him she would go to human resources about this, as well as for his inaction, and was then promptly told that this would constitute harassment and disability discrimination if she insisted. But either way, I did exactly as she wanted, and honestly, it worked out in my favor, even if she's still pissed off in the process. Oh my gosh, good for you. This is really good to hear. First of all, anyone in their right mind would never be like, oh wow, this person's injured. I can't believe they can't do the same work as me. I'm gonna complain. Like, I'm willing to bet this colleague has no friends at this workplace and they absolutely are a pain to deal with. Because seriously, just be reasonable, dude. The original poster is not taking advantage of anybody. Like, come on. It's so weird to be accusatory towards someone who literally has done nothing wrong. They're just trying to make sure their back is in one piece and doesn't get injured. Like, dude, get a grip. So I personally love the way you maliciously complied and basically put this colleague right in their place, because they could do nothing about it and got pissed off in the process, which in my opinion is a reward in and of itself. Am I the jerk for refusing to cancel my annual leave that I'm literally just taking for myself so that I can relax and play some video games and watch some Netflix? Because right now, my girlfriend is very upset with me and doesn't understand why I'm doing this, even though I explained that I just wanted some time to relax. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I live in the United Kingdom and I get 30 days annual leave a year, and my girlfriend gets the same amount. So far, we've got 6 days booked for a holiday abroad and 5 days for some long weekends, and we both have to take at least 3 days over Christmas as our places of work are closed. Now, all of this equals to about half of our leave. We've been talking about a possible holiday next January that will take maybe about 4 days in total. Apart from that, we have nothing planned, and our annual leave refreshes in April. I decided to take 2 to 3 days for a long weekend as I hadn't had some time for myself in a while, and I thought I could do this twice over a couple of months. My girlfriend asked me what I planned to do with it, and I told her there were just some shows on Netflix and Prime that I wanted to catch up on, and there's a few video games that I've got that I just haven't had the chance to play. She said that I could easily do these after work, and that I don't need to take leave for it, but I just said I want to take the leave, and it's not like I'm using a lot of it. Well, she said that I was wasting it, and that leave could be used for a trip for us to do something instead of just sitting at home, but I told her that not every day of leave needs to be used together, and that I'm taking the days just to relax. She then just got annoyed and said I was limiting what we could do together, but I just pointed out that she was trying to limit the time I can relax. I then told her I would be taking the leave and then to drop it, and it was here that she said I was being unfair and not thinking about us. So am I the jerk for refusing to cancel my annual leave? Because right now I'm honestly super frustrated. Okay, no, I don't think there's anything wrong with what the original poster's doing. If they want to take time off and play video games and watch Netflix, then go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, the original poster's right. You don't need to plan everything out anytime you take leave, and it's gonna refresh in April anyway, so like, you might as well use it now. So no, the original poster has not done anything wrong, and I think they are completely justified in taking leave as they please. Am I overreacting after my wife broke an irreplaceable family gift of mine, all during a fight about her overspending on our budget? Because right now I'm struggling to forgive her ever, as she has literally refused to apologize for this. Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old male, and I'm really struggling to forgive my wife after a fallout from a fight. It escalated to somewhere it really didn't need to go, and I just need an outside perspective. For some context, we were high school sweethearts, and we're married now for about 3 years. We're not only partners, but we are best friends. She knows me better than anyone else, and we've been through a lot together. Our relationship was never perfect. We've had our ups and downs, but usually we can communicate to common ground, and I never doubted that we were a team. But a constant fight lately is about budgeting. We don't exactly see eye to eye on upholding it. Circumstances have changed, and the budget was more relaxed before, but it simply had to be tightened because of the increase in rent. Now, the budget isn't unreasonable, and it keeps us in the boundaries of living within our means. But overall, we're just making sure we have everything covered first, all before spending elsewhere. It's not so different than the system we already had, but now that the budget is actually locked in, my wife has issues sticking with it. The other day, she went over the budget on an impulse purchase, and it put us in a bind on a bill, and I only found out what happened when I saw the deduction. She said she couldn't resist the deal and splurged a bit. She thought she could pay it back before I noticed and before the other bill was due, and that simply didn't make me feel better about any of this. I then told her that I wish she would have just communicated with me since it went over our budget, but she said she wasn't a child who needed permission and that she intended to return the funds. We then got into a fight, and it was the biggest one we had had in a while. Now, I had this pottery piece that was a gift from my great-grandma. We were very close, and she handcrafted it for me. Well, my wife broke it during our fight. She literally slapped it right off its shelf. I was too far away to grab it, and she never even attempted to. And as you can guess, the pottery was smashed to pieces, and I swear she did it on purpose. I watched her make eye contact with it before swinging her hand, and I feel like she was angry at me and retaliated in the moment. And I'm now really hurt. The pottery was irreplaceable. My wife knew how much it meant to me, but she hasn't taken accountability or apologized. She only keeps saying that it was an accident, and now she's being extra affectionate verbally and physically. But you know what? I simply haven't been receptive. I know to someone else it was just pottery, but it meant a lot more to me. I don't want to believe that my wife broke it on purpose, but I can't shake the possibility that she did. So I honestly just don't know. I'm struggling to forgive her. I don't want to build resentment or fight anymore. So am I overreacting, or is there any way that I'm in the right? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I want you to understand that yeah, she did that on purpose 100%. She looked you in the eye and smacked that specifically off the shelf just to hurt you. She knows how much that meant to you, and she knows that it's something that was irreplaceable. So she smacked that off the shelf on purpose just so she could hurt you in some kind of way. And this is all because she's overspending. Like, dude, think about it for a second. This is so messed up. And the part that would drive me crazy is that she did not even apologize. She's trying to be verbally and physically affectionate, but it's like, dude, not even like an apology of some kind? Really? You're just gonna act like this didn't happen and try and be on your merry way? Like, that is unacceptable behavior in my opinion. That would drive me up a wall, and I just don't care who you are. So no, you're not overreacting here. I would have a very hard time forgiving someone if they're not willing to apologize and admit fault, especially something that was a family heirloom of some kind that you just cannot replace. Because in my opinion, she absolutely did that on purpose. My close friend of 5 years dropped out of my wedding out of nowhere and is now dropped off the map and completely ghosted me. And right now I'm wondering if I did something wrong, because at this point I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this is all a bit complicated, and I'm still very hurt and confused about losing a friend, so bear with me. I met my friend about 6 years ago, and while we were not besties, I would say that we were close. We went on vacation together and we shared a room. She was going to attend my wedding, and about 2 weeks before the date, when I sent out details about the bachelor party, she texted me and said, "I am no longer attending your wedding." And that was all. I asked if something was wrong or if she wanted to talk about something, but I got no response. Now, many of my guests were confused that she wasn't there and asked me later, but the only explanation I could come up with was the following. About a month before everything happened, I was going to buy one of her courses. It's like this marketing course, and I wanted it for a while, but I had to save up for it as it ran for about $1,000. Well, I guess the pricing changed, and they now had a sales call to get the course instead of a sign-up version it used to be, and the course ended up being like 3 times the price now. Now, I still signed up, albeit feeling unsure about it, but the sales rep didn't show up to our follow-up call that night, and afterwards they hadn't even responded or sent full materials in 48 hours. So at that point, I just asked for a refund. Now, I was absolutely professional at any point of that conversation with the sales rep, so it honestly still confused me, because I never expected me wanting a refund to affect the relationship to the point that someone would basically ghost me. Well, I shared this story with two of my friends that asked about it, and everyone says it sounds off and how sometimes people just change, but it didn't really help me understand or make peace with what happened. I assumed that even if something hit a nerve, someone who calls themselves my friend would at least just ask me about it, and never would I have assumed that someone who was attending my wedding would be able to cut me out like that no problem. I'm still debating if I should say anything at some point, because I would apologize if I knew what it was all about, because right now I'm honestly so confused and I just don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, who in their right mind is taking a $3,000 marketing course, dude? That really does sound like a scam in my opinion, and I think you dodged a train. Like, what's going on right now? But honestly, I think this absolutely is the reason why this friend backed out and said, we can't be friends anymore. Like, even $1,000 for that kind of course is way too much. Like, what's going on right now? You could probably find a cheaper course that's like way easier to access than whatever crap this lady's trying to sell you. Like, what's going on, dude? Because this really sounds like some kind of like multi-level marketing scheme. It doesn't seem legit, and it really does seem like they only wanted to be friends with you as some kind of like transactional thing. So yeah, I know you might be like upset about this friend walking out and ghosting you, but I think you clearly dodged a train that she was trying to like set up on this track for a few years now, as this course of hers doesn't sound very legit, and I think you're better off without her in your life. The entitled father of a classmate gets pissed off at me when I block his number after he calls me 21 times in a single day as he was trying to figure out what my scores were for a national medical entrance exam, which is honestly one of the weirdest situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, to start things out, I participated in India's medical entrance exam for undergrads based on class 11 and 12 syllabus. I joined a coaching center for prep and only made casual acquaintances, mostly for notes. The coaching was far from most homes, so parents usually just pick their kids up. And I guess this is how one girl's father ended up asking for my number. Now, mind you, we were just classmates and we barely even spoke. Anyways, right after the exam, this man calls me up and asks me what the score range is that I'm expecting. I then just gave him a rough estimate since I was really not that confident. I had boards and this exam around the same time, and I was focusing more on the boards than I was the medical exam. He then starts full-on lecturing me about wasting my parents' money and time. Now, I was already stressed and disappointed, so I just zoned out and hung up after saying okay just a few times on the phone. Well, a couple months later, when the medical exam results came out, he called me 7 times in the morning, 7 times in the afternoon, and 7 times in the evening. And the next day, he called me 4 more times. And you know what? I ignored all of it and just finally blocked him. Well, his daughter then steps in and messaged me asking if I blocked her father. And I said yes, because he was being extremely weird about my results. She then said it was disrespectful and that they just wanted to know my marks and which college I'm getting into. She kept pushing to know my information, so I finally said no and just blocked her too. Honestly, I do not get why some people think they have the right to question random students about their exams, like they're some kind of school authority or something like that. It boils my blood every time I think about it, and honestly, I don't regret blocking them for a single second. Okay, this is really weird to me because what father in their right mind would be like, okay, random person that goes to this like study course with my daughter, tell me about your exams, and then proceeds to call you like over a dozen times in a single day. Like at that point, this had better be some kind of emergency because I'm gonna lose it if I ever pick up that phone. Even calling like 5 times is too much for me. Like, dude, what are you doing? This guy hit you up 21 times in a single day. That's like almost once an hour, dude. Like, give it a rest. And then for his daughter to step in and be like, wow, you blocked my obnoxious father. Let me take his place by also being obnoxious. Like, holy crap, I don't know if you guys have a thing for the original poster or not, but you need to take a step back and pump the brakes, bro. So yeah, this guy was out of his mind, and I don't blame you for blocking him, because his behavior was super creepy and super entitled. An entitled Karen demands that I add her order to another customer's bill simply because the other customer is her ex-boyfriend, as she claims he should be responsible for everything in her life. But when I say no, this lady goes into an absolute spiral, freaking out on me in a way that I honestly never expected. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this happened about 6 years ago, back in 2019. So I was a 21-year-old at the time, and when I was still living in New Jersey, I just finished college and I was working as a shift manager at a fast food restaurant, which of course I'm not gonna name, while also doing my tattoo apprenticeship. One day, one of the cashiers, who I will call Jane, came up to me and asked for help as there was a situation in the counter that she didn't really know how to deal with. At the counter was this man, his son, and behind him was this woman with 2 younger kids. The man then explained that he's the father of his 10-year-old son, and the woman behind him is his ex, who is the mother of his son, but he is not the father of her 2 other kids. He had custody of his sons today, so he was taking him out for lunch and to try and visit a museum, but the baby mama and her 2 other kids, as he called her, just so happened to also show up at the restaurant at the same time that he pulled up. She was demanding that he also treat her other 2 kids for lunch and take them to the museum as well, but the man said he is responsible for his son and only his son. His ex then tried to interject, saying that she didn't want her kids to be left out while the oldest kid, the son, got special treatment, and that their dad's not in the picture. That being said, she wanted the man to pay for the lunches of her 2 other kids as well. I told Jane that I'll take it from here, and the man told me that he'll order 2 combos for himself and his son. And as I was taking the order, this woman literally then tried shouting the order of her 2 other kids. At this point, the man and his ex then started arguing again, and then the man turned to me, adamantly stating he will only pay for his order and that of his son. Plus, on top of that, he will be paying in cash. But this woman then started shouting at me that I need to add her order to his as well. But I just told this woman that she will need to wait her turn. I mean, the man paid for his order and waited. The woman then came up to me, gave me her order, plus that of her kids, but when I told her the price of her 5 combos for herself and her 2 kids, she then asked if her ex had already paid for all of it. I told her that his order was only for himself and his son, and that her order was separate from his. And it's also like I only took her order after the man paid, so yeah, we're not going back on that. This woman then started screaming at me and how hard it is for her to be a single mom. She says she doesn't have the money to pay, and then she began pointing at her ex again, saying that he should have to pay for her order because he's single, has a full-time job, and lives by himself. Well, the man then spoke up and started shouting, reiterating that her other 2 kids are not his responsibility. Now, at this point, I told the woman that I sympathize with her, and I genuinely do, but unfortunately, I can't just add her order to that of another customer who already paid, not to mention the fact that he very specifically said he would only pay for his order. I then asked her if she's still paying for her order or if I need to cancel it, and it's here that she literally tried to grab the credit card her ex had, but he pushed her off of him, and then after that she left the store, telling the man to take her other 2 kids with him to the museum. And yeah, you heard that right, she legit just left her kids with him. Now at this point, I did not know what else to do, but the man then told me that he'd also like to buy some fries and chili for her 2 other kids, and then he just told me that he'd drop these kids off at his ex's place himself. I then told him not to bother paying for the extra fries as it was on the house, and I'll just add extra fries to the existing order, because from the sounds of it, this guy definitely had a very rough day. Okay, I kinda see why that guy broke up with that lady, because holy crap, that's an entirely different level of crazy in my opinion. Who in their right mind would be like, oh yeah, you're gonna pay for everything that I've got because you're single and you have a full-time job? It's like, dude, no, I'm not gonna pay for anything for you, and I'm only gonna take care of my son. Like, what's going on right now? This lady literally has kids with another man, and she's trying to be like, these are your responsibility too. And it's like, dude, no, it's not. That is absolutely not how it's gonna work. And I love the fact that she literally tried to get on the original poster and be like, oh, come on, you're supposed to help me out. And it's like, dude, I just work here. I'm not interested in some weird pseudo custody battle, dude. Like, get a grip. But I think overall, I'm like super blown away that that guy willingly said, okay, I'll just drop these kids off and I'll buy him some extra food or something. Because if that was me, dude, I would literally report her or something. You can't just drop your kids off with someone who is not their father and be like, it's your responsibility now. Take them to the museum for all I care. I'm out of here. Like, seriously, that's some bad behavior, man. You're not a good mom if you do that. So yeah, I think the original poster handled this perfectly. And I can only imagine how funny that must have been later on thinking about it and like talking about it with coworkers. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My girlfriend went on a girls' trip out to a cabin, only to then return a completely different person, as she went from a bubbly, joyful person all the way down to this reserved and very quiet individual who looked like she was trying to hide some kind of secret. But after doing some digging and trying to figure out what happened on this trip, it was eventually revealed that my girlfriend had straight up cheated on me while she was on vacation. And now I've decided to break up with her and move on with my life, even though this is the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with. Here's how it all went down. I'm a 25-year-old male, and I've been with my girlfriend for a couple of years now. We've been living together for a few months, and things have been mostly really good. Like, yeah, little arguments here and there, but nothing major. Well, last weekend she went on a trip with her college friends over to this lake house or cabin that one of their families owns. It was something that was just for the girls, kind of like a last summer thing before a couple of them move out of state. And you know what? I was totally fine with it. I told her to go and have fun because I literally had no issue there. But when she got back, something felt off immediately. Like, she walked in and just barely looked at me. me. She gave me a quick hug and then went straight to the bedroom to unpack. She didn't even say that she missed me or anything like that. We usually text a bunch when we're apart, but she was kind of distant the entire trip too. Like she was giving shorter responses and slower replies. Ever since she's been back, she has been weirdly quiet. Not mad or anything like that, but just really distant. She's been zoning out, not really laughing at stuff like she usually does, and just kind of flat when we talk. I asked her how the trip was, and she literally said, "Oh, it was all right," and then would change the topic really fast. There were no stories, no funny moments, no pictures, no nothing, which really is super unlike her. She normally comes back from an outing with like 10 stories and a ton of photos. The other thing is that she's been journaling a lot since she came back, which again, it's not bad, it's just something new. She's always kind of been into mindfulness and stuff like that. I then asked her if everything was okay, and she just said that she's tired and processing a lot at the moment, which is kind of like, okay, whatever that means, I guess. I tried pressing gently, and she told me I was being overly clingy, and that she just needs a bit of space. Now, I've never been called clingy before, so that really stung for me. I've tried asking her friends if something happened, but they kind of just brush it off and tell me not to worry. So now I'm just sitting here like, okay, what happened on that trip that made her come back a totally different person? She's not mad at me, I think, but it honestly feels like she left as one version of herself and came back as an entirely different person, and she simply won't let me in at all. I'm trying not to make a big deal out of it, but I feel like I'm being iced out and I have no clue why. What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster has an update they'd like to share, and honestly, things get kind of weird. Here's what's going on. Okay, so first off, I want to thank everyone who commented or messaged me, because every little bit helps me when it comes to talking about this. I read everything, even if I couldn't reply back to everyone, and while some of it did help, other parts of it really made me feel worse. Okay, so here's the update. It wasn't really a planned discussion or anything like that, but it just kind of happened out of nowhere. Now, I had earlier asked one of her friends if something was going on, and she again just didn't really open up, but told me it wouldn't be her place or job to say if something did or didn't. Now, I thought I wouldn't really get anything out of her, so I just kind of said screw it, and I would just try and talk to my girlfriend later on. Well, she then came home from work and was just acting off again. You know, the usual I've been dealing with ever since this trip. She barely said anything, didn't really eat the dinner I had prepared for her earlier, almost immediately went for a long walk outside, and afterwards went straight to the shower and spent a long time there. Later, she kind of just stayed in our bedroom laying about and not really engaging with me at all. I haven't seen her writing in her journal at all today, and honestly, I don't think much of it. I then went in after a while just to ask her about her day gently, and no, I wasn't pressing her or bothering her about it. Just calmly asked if she could please just talk to me, and that I care about her and how she feels. I told her I wasn't trying to fight or blame anything on her. I just wanted to understand what's going on, and since we always share everything, it's unfair to keep me in the dark like this, and that I'd support her either way, whatever it is. Now, she didn't say much. She kept mumbling about not knowing what to say, wasn't really feeling it as she was tired, etc. So I stepped back, I spent some time on my own, and I decided to go for a walk. But eventually, later today, she started opening up a little. I guess she had enough time to reflect and gather her thoughts. I'm not going to try and put every single word she said here in quotations, because it kind of feels personal, but also, I'm still trying to process it myself. But basically, yeah, something did happen on the trip, and something happened with her and the girls. She didn't say word for word what she did in detail, but she made it really clear that it went way past what would be okay in a relationship. And from the sounds of it, it's like way past what would be okay. There was plans of drinking during the trip, and I know my girl drinks and I do too, but it's never been a problem. I was expecting it, and I think it's normal, and I encourage her always to have fun if she wants to, since, you know, I trust her. She's been to raves and parties, etc., and I've never seen a problem with that at all. It's not my right to limit her hobbies, even if I don't always match her energy. And mind you, she has never been a heavy drinker, at least not around me, and we've never had to talk about her alcohol usage. She's been a well-behaving adult for all of our relationship, and if she has been drunk, it's always stayed well within the limits of good taste. Well, she then said that what happened wasn't planned, and that it just kind of did, and that she wasn't herself, which honestly just made me feel a knot in my stomach, like she was preparing me for something really, really bad. So I encouraged her to just say it, that she has already said enough for me to not back down now. I mean, I really deserve to know about this. She then said that the trip honestly went well regarding the original plan. They drank, went to the sauna by the lake, they swam around, they played games, they hung around like normal, and it doesn't sound awful, right? It sounds like a normal weekend trip with a bunch of friends. So then, later that night, they had been drinking more, they were partying and listening to music, enjoying themselves, and some of them were drinking and hanging out in the hot tub, while some of them were hanging out inside the cabin playing a board game and talking. Now, my girlfriend kinda talks in circles about this, and tries proving during our talk how it was in the end a good trip, and that they all really did enjoy it. But eventually though, she gets to the point and tells me why she's been so down. Later in the evening, evening, someone had suggested they do a drinking game, and honestly, I don't see any issue with that since I like partying and I like games too. It's all this good fun within these set limits. They had played bottle spin, the usual, with an added twist of drinking or doing the dare, and a couple of the girls were pushing it and encouraging it. She admitted she went along with it and wanted to play along, but the way she said it honestly makes me just feel like, man, I don't know. She really looked ashamed of herself and kind of said it in a quiet tone. The dares had been innocent and normal at first, kind of the tame stuff that you might expect, the usual that you hear everywhere. They would ask questions like, who's your celebrity crush? What's your darkest secret? Sing a particular song, and I imagine the rest would be along those lines. But eventually they had gotten out of hand as the game went on and more drinks were consumed. Some of the girls then started to dare the others to kiss each other, pick out who they would F, marry, kill, if you know what I mean, pour out drinks into each other's mouths and stuff like that. And obviously it sounds like to me something that can lead to something very bad very quickly. My girlfriend then says she didn't know better or deny a good time. She says she felt it was fun in the moment and didn't feel that she did anything wrong, and it was all consensual and nobody minded it, and that it's normal for girls to do after getting tipsy, and that she doesn't even remember everything that well and apparently had a hangover the next day, and says she isn't really sure if she did anything at all. She then said that she felt bad because she obviously doesn't like the girls that way, or she would say that she normally doesn't do these kinds of things and only kind of watches from the side. She never explicitly says what she participated in and what exact action she took during the game, but she talks like she's guilty, so it's all just a bit confusing. Well, there was one girl there with them on the trip who we will call Ellie for the sake of the story. Now, I've met her and she's the fun, easygoing type of person, and the one I mentioned earlier in my post that doesn't seem like she would hurt me or her in any kind of way. I then asked my girlfriend if she was there since I know she was with them, and that I wanted to know if I was totally wrong about her. And honestly, I wanted to know if they all sucked and played along knowing that she has a boyfriend. My girlfriend then said that Ellie had not participated and kind of left the cabin when things started happening. Apparently, she had mentioned that she was not feeling well and that she would be sitting this one out and just kind of left and came back later in the night. They had talked later that night outside, but says that nothing happened between them, which honestly I completely believe. I don't know why she brought it up since Ellie's actions don't sound suspicious anyways, and I would not have expected her to do anything between them, so this just kind of felt like a weird extra detail that she added in. My girlfriend then said that she hasn't talked to her or the girls much after the trip, and I want to take a step back just to let everybody know that I didn't yell at her or get angry, but instead I just kind of sat there. I didn't know at first how to respond since she just didn't sound like her usual considerate self. She kept saying that she didn't know why she shut down, and she's been feeling horrible ever since then, that she didn't know how to tell me, and that she has needed time to word her thoughts. Well, we've been distant with each other ever since we had the talk, and it's just this heaviness between us ever since she got back, and now I know why. And I really just don't even know what to do now. I told her I needed space and I went for a walk. I then came back and just kind of sat there in the living room, not really even looking at her. Now, am I treating her the same way now? I mean, I'm shutting her out, I'm ignoring the problem, the elephant in the room, not acknowledging that things are kind of messed up, because obviously I should not be okay with this. I don't see a life without her, so her behavior is really hard to accept. It makes me question if I should sleep somewhere else tonight, or if I should break it off immediately. I mean, everything is just so messy in my head, and I don't know what to do or even how to approach it. I've really never been the confrontational type either, and even through all of this, I really do love her. Like seriously, I really do, but I don't know if I can look at her in the same way again. Not just because of what she maybe did, but because she came home and shut me out, made me feel like I was crazy for even noticing that something was wrong. I feel like this is something she should have told me immediately, because this obviously affects us. And honestly, I don't even know if we're going to be a thing after this. We've set clear boundaries in our relationship and never crossed them. And the fact that she's still leaving details out is really bothering me, and I just don't know what to do. Okay, before we go any further still, the original poster has a final update for this entire story. To give some additional context, they've tried to reach out to Ellie to figure out exactly what's going on, because the girlfriend is not giving any information, and essentially Ellie confirmed that more people were joining them over the weekend, which was more than just the initial girlfriend group, and then basically just went back to him and said, okay, go figure this out with your girlfriend, I don't really care about this situation. So we essentially know that yes, the girlfriend did something, and then yes, there were more people there than anyone expected. And with that bit of context, this is the final update the original poster had to say. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to write this down for closure for myself and for the people who followed this, because this is a lot. I'll be staying somewhere else for a couple of days, maybe even more, before starting to make preparations for splitting off. I finally had a proper conversation with Ellie, and it wasn't quick. We talked all evening, and she didn't seem to want to at first, but eventually she opened up. She was the only one who wasn't drinking or participating, and I respect her for being so straightforward with me. She Ellie then told me the following. The group was drinking heavily, and at one point, some of the girls invited a few guys over who were staying nearby. And yes, these are guys that I had no idea would be there at all. Ellie then says that she's not sure if this was part of the plan all along, or if it was the girl's idea to do so in the moment. At the very least, she didn't know about it beforehand. And apparently, the drinking game started getting more intense with the guys involved. Well, according to Ellie, my girlfriend ended up making out with two different people. One of the girls, who, by the way, it's the same girl who told me not to worry about it and wouldn't give me answers when I contacted her originally, and on top of that, she made out with one of the other guys. Apparently, there was a lot of touching that wasn't just playful. As far as Ellie knows, my girlfriend didn't spend quality time with anyone, if you know what I mean, because Ellie says that she left and didn't know the happenings afterwards. But this was far past anything I would ever be okay with, and definitely past anything we ever agreed was acceptable in our relationship. What hit me the hardest was how, according to Ellie, my girlfriend wasn't even that drunk at that point. Tipsy, sure, but not blackout or out of control. She had been laughing, very involved, and didn't seem pressured. She definitely wasn't out of it like she tried to make it sound. Ellie left because she was uncomfortable, and when she returned later, my girlfriend was still in full party mode, and talking was all blurry, and she was just a complete mess. I talked with my girlfriend, who is now my ex-girlfriend, over the phone, but all I got was mumbles or silent treatment. I even told her straight up that I know what she did, and that she could at least admit it to me before I break it off. I asked if I meant anything to her, or if all of our time together has just been fake, or just some kind of act for her. I asked her about how long she's had problems with her drinking, since I've always thought of her as a mature and smart woman. Well, when I asked this, she was sobbing, and told me she could help me understand if I came home, and that she could make up for it, and even if she did do it, she still loved me. So honestly, I'm just completely done. I can't stay in something where I'm lied to, gaslit, and made to feel like I'm overreacting for noticing something is off. She came home and shut down instead of being honest. She let me stay confused even when trying to comfort her, not to mention that she should have been honest the second she walked through the door. Not that it would have made anything right about what she did. But regardless, I'm thankful for all the messages I got and all the support I received, because this has been very rough and incredibly hard to handle. Holy crap, dude. Like, this is some serious stuff going on, man. Like, the original poster was spot on from the very beginning. They knew that something was off, but they just simply couldn't prove it. They literally said, okay, something's weird here. What's going on? You literally are not acting like yourself. Like, just tell me what's going on. And yet the original poster's girlfriend could not do it. She knew she was like completely screwed, and she ruined her relationship. Which, by the way, good for the original poster for breaking up with her. This is some toxic, crazy behavior that you do not deserve in the slightest, dude. Because at the end of the day, you absolutely didn't do anything wrong. Your girlfriend cheated on you 100%. So hopefully life gets better for you moving forward, and I'm honestly so sorry that any of this happened, because I'm sure this is devastating for you and incredibly hard to deal with. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my brother's computer repair after he refused to help me when I needed him the most? Because he's now saying that I'm being unfair and I'm holding it against him, despite the fact that what I needed help with was really important. Because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my brother and I have had a rocky relationship for several years. Recently his computer broke down and he asked me to help cover the repair cost, which would be about $400 because he can't really afford to buy a new one. But here's the thing that's really causing problems with me. 6 months ago, I had an emergency. I was stuck at home because my heating broke during a freezing night, and I called him for help. And for reference, he knows that kind of stuff. Well, when I called him, he refused to come by, saying that he was too busy. I ended up calling the technician, which seriously set me back a lot financially. But now that he's asking me for money, I'm just telling him no. And no, this is not something he could fix himself because he doesn't understand anything about this kind of thing. Well, when I said no to him, he got angry and said I was being unfair. But I just told him I'm not willing to help out after how he treated me last time. But I will say, on the other side of this, I also think if I help him now, maybe he'd be kind enough to do the same thing for me when I need it. So seriously, am I the jerk for not giving my brother $400 for his computer? Because I'm really not sure where to go with this. No, I don't think this is something you need to worry about. This is literally just a computer that, from the sounds of it, is not something he needs for work or anything like that. Because if it was for work, then I guarantee you they would fix it and like repair it if they needed to. If anything, it's just a personal computer that he wants working, and he's just going to you looking for $400 so he can have what he wants. But that is so different in my opinion compared to what you went through, because literally you're dealing with no heating in a freezing house. Like, that is absolutely not even close to the same thing. And for him to even begin to compare the two is just so weird in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk for not giving him money, because it doesn't sound like he would ever return the favor. And I guarantee you, even if you did help him out, chances are he definitely would not return that kindness at all, and you would just be wasting your time and money on something that he could easily figure out on his own. My fiance was caught kissing my twin sister, as I literally just found out they'd been texting each other behind my back, all leading up to them kissing at a family reunion. And I'm honestly so heartbroken that right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 28-year-old female and I really need some advice. For some backstory, I'm engaged to my longtime partner and I'm in the process of planning our wedding. My fiance and I are at our family's lake house for a week-long family reunion. I've been super excited for this trip to have a much-needed break from work and wedding planning, and also to have a chance to see all of my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, and basically my whole family. Well, this morning my cousin pulled me aside and actually told me something completely unexpected. She said she went upstairs to grab some clothes, and as she was walking down the hall, she saw my twin sister and fiance talking quietly in one of the bedrooms. Then she said she saw them share a quick kiss. And just so we're clear, we are fraternal twins, meaning there's no chance we could ever be mistaken for one another. And honestly, I'm completely in shock. My twin sister and I have always been so close. My first thought was that there was no way this happened. I have never seen or noticed any tension between my fiance and sister, and they also have limited opportunity to be around one another. We live about an hour away from one another and they are busy with work. I cannot imagine that either of them would do this. I'm also wondering what to believe of what my cousin told me. I have no reason not to trust her, but I just want to believe that she saw something wrong. I don't really know. I mean, a kiss is really hard to mistake. So I'm currently resting up as I have period cramps and I just don't feel well. I then asked my cousin to at least keep this to herself so I can figure out what I want to do. We're all staying here together for the week until Sunday, so if I confront them now, I know this would cause a huge scene. However, I don't know if I can wait until we get back home, knowing that I'm just festering inside with this knowledge. So I'm turning to the internet right now to see what I need to do. I don't know if I need advice or I'm looking for support or what. I suppose any advice or comments are appreciated because right now I don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update that they wanted to share. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so after going back and forth on whether I should try to snoop through my fiance or my sister's phones, or just sitting everyone down and asking what happened, I decided to go through with the latter. My cousin actually came back later to my room to check on me, and we had a brief conversation. She let me know she supported whatever my decision was, and she would be there to back me up if I needed that. Now, while it was sweet, it kind of squashed any thought that my cousin could be manipulating the truth. And honestly, after that conversation with her, I couldn't keep holding this in. I then got the four of us together and I laid it all out there. I told them that my cousin came across them talking in the upstairs bedroom and had witnessed them kissing. And honestly, whoever told me to tell them what I knew and then zip my lips, seriously, I need to thank you. I didn't even have to ask any questions because I could see the guilt flooding over my sister. It seemed like my fiance was trying to find a way to backtrack, but then my sister started profusely apologizing and crying. While she's crying, my fiance tells me it was a mistake and only one kiss. And it's here that I said I wanted them to show me their phones, and if it was only one kiss, I shouldn't find anything. Well, my fiance hesitated again, but I told him that we would be done if he didn't let me see it. From what I could find, my sister started flirting with my fiance, starting off with compliments. I don't know if she was just stroking his ego, but their text messages were very much so flirty in nature. Up to this point, I'm pissed but unsure what this means for our relationship. That is until I get one of their last messages that was sent this morning from my fiance. He literally said, "I know I should regret that, but I don't." I then told him to pack up his crap and that we would talk about this at home. I told my sister I was disgusted and that she should leave me alone. So I haven't technically called anything off, but I'm going to take the next couple of days to really sit with things. I can't imagine being able to go back to him after all of this because right now I feel really sick. I don't want to be anywhere near my sister, but I would rather be here to have space from my fiance. I think right now I just haven't truly processed what this means as I'm seeing red. And as mad as I am with my fiance, I feel so betrayed by my sister that has quite literally been with me through all of my ups and downs. So honestly, I am so distraught and I seriously just don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this is some heavy crap, dude. Like seriously, this is unbelievably toxic and I can't believe that your fiance and your sister did this. But worst of all, your fiance doesn't regret any of it. Like he literally admitted that in a text message, dude. Like what's going on right now? Your sister is a snake and your fiance is a piece of garbage. Like dude, what's going on right now? And I think your tactic of just sitting there and letting them talk was the best thing possible because either someone's gonna lie or someone's gonna freak out and start crying. And funny enough, both of those things happened. So yeah, I don't blame you for being upset and I don't blame you for taking your time to figure things out, but I can definitely speak for myself when I say that there's no way I would ever marry someone like this because you're dealing with someone who is willingly able to like ruin your life and ruin your family in one fell swoop. And the fact that he feels no remorse for this, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're you're probably going to love Am I the Genius? Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for a new car my mom bought me that I quite literally told her I do not want? Because she seriously expects me to pay her back when I turn 18. And at this point, I'm honestly so frustrated that I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I was gifted driving lessons by my mom a few months ago as a late birthday present, and I was very grateful and very happy to go to the lessons because it's a skill that opens up more job opportunities as I'm currently finding it hard to get a job. She said I should buy a car with the savings account I receive when I turn 18, and I have said multiple times I do not want a car, and I don't want to spend any of that money before I've even received it. She was even going to view cars and I wouldn't go, and I made it very clear that I was not interested. I have a bus pass, so I don't need a car for travel, and when I leave for university, I will have literally no use for it. Well, while I was away on holiday with my dad, she went behind my back and bought me a $4,000 car I wasn't expecting. When I saw it, I started crying as I thought she bought it from her own pocket, and I was incredibly grateful. But the next day, she took me for a drive in the new car, and I said I was so excited to have my own car, only for her to start shouting at me and tell me that it wasn't mine until I was 18 and when I paid her back. Now, my dad estimated there would be about $7,000 in the savings fund, which I am eternally grateful and thankful for, but I don't think over half of that money should be spent on a car. I told her I would have appreciated her telling me before she bought the car, and I would have liked to have had an input on the decision. And when I said that, she just kept getting angrier. So I finally told her I would not be paying her back. She said that's what the account was made for, and that I'm going against my parents' wishes. Well, ever since then, she has been screaming at me, calling me a thief, saying that I'm a liar and a cheater. She has even started asking me for things that she has bought for me back, such as the new pair of trainers that she bought me, since my old ones were literally falling apart, and I was just getting made fun of at college for it. She also gives me some money for food, which she has now stopped, and she won't even look at me. I've spoken to my dad, and he says the money in the account was for me to spend on whatever I like, but my mom obviously doesn't agree. I understand completely this is a minor issue, and I will still be getting a lot of money, but for me, I'm more concerned about the way that she's handled the situation, even though I'm not entirely surprised about what she did. So seriously, am I the jerk for not wanting to pay for a car I don't even want? Because right now, I'm honestly very upset. Okay, this is so counterintuitive, it's not even funny. So you're telling me she bought you a car that you didn't want out of this account that she's been putting money into, and is now trying to be like, you owe me money for this. And it's like, dude, why would you pay for a car that you didn't want, that you didn't buy? She's almost trying to like put you in debt retroactively in the future for something that you didn't purchase. And it's like, dude, is your mom an idiot or what? Because as far as I'm concerned, that savings account is not yours until you're 18. And whatever money's in there, whether it's $3,000 or $7,000, is, in my opinion, completely irrelevant until then. So there's no possible way you can owe her money in the future for something that she's spending right now on something you didn't ask for. That'd be like me buying someone a computer and being like, oh man, when you're 18, you're gonna owe me a lot of money for this computer, because then at that point you could be like, okay, well forget it, I don't want it. In fact, I never even asked for it. Why are you somehow indebted to her for something that she bought that you don't want and you told her you don't want? Like, this is so backwards and unnecessary, it's just not even funny. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and I think your mom is being incredibly weird. I feel that my friendship with my former roommate is coming to a close, as it really seems like she's changed for the worse ever since I moved out. And now I'm wondering if I might be overreacting in this situation because everything seems incredibly weird, and I seriously just don't know how to handle it. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I met my best friend freshman year of college. We clicked instantly despite being polar opposites, and for the past 3 years, we've basically been joined at the hip. We've lived together in every apartment, we've shared rooms, we've traveled, done groceries together, so much so that we started calling each other our home wife. For over a year, I'd been on a wait list for our dream apartment. Exponentially cheaper rent, a private room and bathroom, close proximity to the school, and less roommates. The first time I was offered a spot, I turned it down because they only had room for me and we are supposedly a package deal. Well, fast forward a year and we're currently living in an 8-girl, 4-room apartment. My friend's family member was planning to move in with us so that they could have a support system while starting school for a second time. About a week before their move-in date, the dream apartment called, and this time with 2 spots for the upcoming school year. Well, I told my friend immediately, and when I said this, she was torn. She didn't want to abandon her family member, but she also didn't want to pass up the apartment. But after thinking it over, I decided to take the contract. I'm a broke, fully independent student. I don't have a car, I have no family help, I'm working full-time while in school full-time just to afford tuition and food. Saving money is survival for me, which at first is something that I thought she understood. She eventually chose to stay at our current apartment because her mom bribed her to, and we plan to transfer my current spot to her family member so they could share a room with people that they're familiar with. But here's the thing, her reaction ever since then has been really weird. She's been shutting me out, saying we won't see each other again because we'll be too busy, even though we'll literally live like 2 minutes away on the same block. I have suggested Sunday dinners, study nights, watch parties, etc., which she flat out says she won't put in the effort because she's a homebody and she's too lazy for that kind of thing. Now, for some extra context, I know my friend doesn't love socializing, but her mom has made it my chore to help her socialize at least once every couple of months. Despite her mom constantly asking me to take her out, I won't force her into situations that she doesn't want, but she still gets super upset when I go hang out with my other friends, and she's pretty direct about it. Not because I didn't think to invite her, as she hates pretty much everyone I know, but because I should be spending more of my time with her. On top of that, I've been the only one to ever clean for the two of us, despite multiple talks about it in the past, and was refused any help with apartment hunting this entire time, simply because she has a different budget, which also means she would miss out on video game time. At times during our friendship, I felt more like a nanny than a friend, especially these past couple of months. For years, I've prioritized finding places that fit both of our budgets, but she's always been financially supported by her parents, namely with rent, groceries, the car, and school, so the cost of things has never really been an issue for her. I've compromised before to make sure that we could live together, but this time I chose myself. And now I'm honestly wondering if she's ready to let our friendship just completely fizzle out just because we aren't under the same roof, and I'm the only one trying to make plans, plus doing all the maintenance work in the friendship. Maybe this friendship has just run its course. So am I overreacting by thinking about ending it here instead of dragging out what feels like a one-sided friendship? Because right now I really just don't know what to do. Oh man, yeah, it doesn't sound like she's a good friend at all. Like seriously, it seems like she's like only a friend out of convenience instead of one who's like really willing to like go to bat for you. And that just straight up sucks. You deserve to have friends who care about you and have your best interests in mind, especially when it comes to your living situation, man. Like, why is she so lazy about this? And honestly, if there's not like a lot of socializing going on in this lady's life, then that falls on her. That's not your responsibility. Like, of course you can invite her and be like, hey, come along with me, let's do this thing, it'll be fun. But you can't force her to go. If she's too lazy and she's a homebody, well then congratulations, that's what you're gonna be. Like, you shouldn't have to stifle your social interactions with others that she clearly hates for some stupid reason, just because she's too lazy to find more friends and like expand her network. Like, that's so dumb in my opinion. Like, I just can't stand people who act like that. They want to hold you back all because they've stunted their growth socially. And I don't know about you, but like the fact that parents are like, I don't know, bankrolling her entire life, like that doesn't seem healthy. She literally has everything handed to her and she has like no struggles in life. She's coming from a place of like intense privilege, so it's like, okay, well, what are we supposed to do here? So no, I don't blame you for feeling that way, and I don't think you're overreacting. It sounds like she was never a good friend, and that's really sad to say, and I'm sure you don't want to hear that, but I really think that might be the truth, especially with the way she's been acting. Am I the jerk for ignoring my best friend's calls, even though I know he's only gonna ask me for money? Because he still owes me a lot of money from the previous loan I gave him, and at this point I'm honestly exhausted and I just don't want to deal with that ever again. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this one has been kind of eating me up, so I'm throwing it on the internet for someone to help me out. I'm a 28-year-old male and I have this friend who we will call Sam. I've known this guy for more than 10 years and we are best friends, but we live in different cities for our jobs. A couple months back, he was having some family issues and needed about 20,000 rupees, which is about $200 in American currency. He promised he would return it within the month and I trusted him. I didn't even think twice. Well, fast forward to now 8 months later and I still have not received a single dollar back. Now, I brought this up twice, but both times he just said to me, bro, I'm sorting it out, just a few more days. But of course, nothing happened. Now, trust me, I get it. Life's tough and I'm not heartless. But recently, he has started calling me non-stop, and I just knew that he was gonna ask me for more money. So you know what? I just didn't pick up the phone. I didn't want to deal with another sob story, another guilt trip, and I do feel kind of crappy about it, but also, I'm not his ATM. I have helped him once and he still owes me, and now he's acting like I owe him more just because we're friends. So am I the jerk for ghosting his calls when I know he probably is just gonna ask for money? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, first of all, I don't blame you for turning him away because this is some stupid behavior. This guy's literally treating a friend of 10 years like an ATM instead of being respectful and actually paying you back for the last time you loaned him money. And to that end, I don't blame you for a second for being like, I'm not dealing with this, I can't do this right now. Because yes, he is only using you for money. He doesn't ask you for anything else, and he's only getting in contact with you when he wants some quick cash, and that's honestly not fair in my opinion. So if he really is a good friend and you really are best friends, then maybe it's time to talk to him and be like, look, you can't keep treating treated me this way. I don't appreciate this. And if he really is a good friend, he'll understand, but if he freaks out, then clearly this friendship was pretty shallow. Because you deserve to be treated way better than someone's personal ATM machine. My stepbrother is unbelievably entitled, as his rich parents have spoiled him with basically anything he's ever wanted his entire life. But after he tried that crap with me, I ended up having to shut him down, giving him a newsflash about how the world actually works. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I have a stepbrother who's been making my life a living nightmare since the day my mom married his dad. Don't get me wrong, I've tried to be understanding and welcoming, but his sense of entitlement is suffocating. Now, here's the thing. Our parents are loaded, like crazy rich loaded, and they've spoiled him rotten since day one. He's never had to lift a finger to get what he wants. If he wants a new car, he gets it. If he wants a fancy vacation, they're gonna book it for him. If he wants someone to do his laundry or cook his meals, well, consider it done. But what's even more infuriating is that he started to expect the same treatment from me. He'll show up to my apartment unannounced, expecting me to drop everything to hang out or do favors for him. He will borrow money from me without paying me back, or use my stuff without even asking. And if I ever try to set boundaries or tell him no, he gets angry and acts like I'm the one who's being unreasonable. But the final straw came last weekend. He showed up at my place expecting me to drive him to a concert because his parents had forgotten to get him tickets for the VIP meet and greet. When I told him I had plans and I couldn't take him, he had the nerve to get upset and accuse me of being selfish and not supportive. And it's at that moment that I had simply had enough. I sat him down and I told him, listen, I'm not your personal servant or your ATM. I'm your stepsister, and it's time you started treating me with some kind of respect. You've been handed everything on a silver platter your entire life, and it's made you into this entitled brat. Well, newsflash, the world doesn't owe you a living. You need to start taking responsibility for yourself and your actions. When I said this, he looked at me like I had slapped him in the face. I guess nobody's ever told him the hard truth before, but you know what? I'm not sorry. Someone seriously needs to knock him off of his pedestal and teach him what it means to be a decent human being. Okay, honestly, good for you. This is like seriously needed because this guy does sound incredibly entitled. Like, holy crap, this guy gets new cars and fancy vacations whenever he wants, and then he goes to you expecting the exact same thing but with like concert tickets? Like, what's going on right now? If his parents are so loaded, why go to you to try and get any kind of money? Just go to them and be like, Mommy, Daddy, I need the VIP tickets, please. And then I'm sure they'll throw it at him just so he stops talking to them. Which, by the way, raising your kids like that is not healthy and really stupid, because then you get an adult 22-year-old stepbrother like the original poster has to deal with, who literally has everything handed to him and just doesn't understand what the word no means. So yeah, overall, good for you for putting him in his place, because this guy sounds incredibly spoiled, and that is definitely not something that you should have to deal with in the slightest. Am I the jerk for backing out of helping my sister babysit her kids? All because my mom basically forbid me from helping her out. Because this has caused a lot of infighting and I really don't know what to do now. Here's what's going on. I'm a 19-year-old female and I have two sisters who we will call Rue and Becky. Both have 4 kids each, all under the age of 8. For context, I babysit Becky's kids for free all the time, at least once a week or every other week, whether she has a party, a wedding, or just wants to have a date night. And I've never complained about it. A few days ago, Becky asked if I wanted to go to New Jersey with her because she needed to buy some things. Well, I said no to her and then she just straight up hung up on me. But yesterday she asked again and I said no again. And it's then that she told me the real reason she wanted me to go. She wanted to go with her friend, but when she told her husband, he said that he didn't feel comfortable with her taking all 4 kids to New Jersey alone. And for a bit of context, this is like a 2-hour drive each way. She said I could either go with her to help out the kids or watch them at her house. So I just chose to watch them at her house. And for context, and I didn't tell her this, but the last time I went to New Jersey with her, it was an absolute nightmare. And trust me, that's a story for another day. Well, she agreed to this and I went to go and tell my mom. But when I told my mom, she immediately flipped out, saying Becky takes advantage of people and that it's not my responsibility if her husband doesn't want her alone with the kids, and that if it is an issue, he should take off work and take the kids with him. My mom then told me that I wasn't allowed to watch them simply out of principle. I then called Becky and I told her that I simply couldn't do it. And when I said this, she called me a jerk because she's been wanting to go to New Jersey for a while and I apparently knew that. Now, I thought that was the end of it, but it just completely blew up from there. It turns out my mom was also going to New Jersey that day and called Becky to see if she wanted anything. Becky then hung up on her, which made my mom furious, and Becky later called Rue to vent. But Rue said that she didn't blame me at all because she remembers how bad the last trip was. Now, Becky is saying I started a whole mess because I told mom, which caused a fight between the two of them. She said that she doesn't ask for much and that if she can't rely on her sisters, then who can she rely on? I feel like this got blown way out of proportion, and maybe I should have just told her the truth from the start about why I didn't want to go. And now my other two sisters are also saying I'm the jerk, and while it's not for saying no, it is for just not telling Becky the truth from the start and dragging mom into it. So seriously, am I at fault here? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I gotta be honest here. Becky sounds incredibly high maintenance, and this would probably be the last time I would ever babysit for her ever again if I was in this situation. Like, this is some crazy entitled behavior in my opinion, and seriously, you do not deserve this in the slightest. Because guess what? Becky's children are her responsibility and not yours. And yes, you've helped out in the past, but like, the way she's acting is just completely out of line. Because you have every right to talk to your mom about whatever you want to talk about. You're 19 years old, for God's sakes. You're not a kid anymore, and you definitely can make your own decisions. So across the board, I think everybody else in this story is a massive jerk, especially if they're somehow blaming the situation on you, because in my opinion, you didn't do anything wrong. And if anything, they gotta get their priorities straightened out, because this is definitely not your problem. My mom's entitled friend demands that I open up one of my collector Barbie dolls and give it to her granddaughter to play with, as this lady literally broke into my room and started rummaging through it without asking or even telling anybody first when she came over to visit. And now I'm super paranoid that she might come back and try it again. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I moved out of my parents' house last year. My parents have kept my childhood bedroom as it is, with all of my old toys, belongings, my clothing, etc., because I go home to visit most weekends and I help out around the house. This includes some collector edition Barbies and dolls that my dad bought for me when I was younger. I keep them in boxes stored on a high shelf. There's about 10 dolls in total, some of which are collector's items now because of their age and condition. I haven't thought about selling them because I just like keeping things my dad bought for me. I guess I have an attachment to them because he worked in the United States while we lived in Canada without him, and toys were given when he visited us. This past weekend, I was visiting my mom, and she brought some of her friends over. One particular entitled friend, who we will call Jane, brought with her 5-year-old granddaughter. I told my mom not to let the child up in my room after having a bad experience with kids taking my belongings and then breaking them. Now, I stayed downstairs and worked in a room, but eventually, I heard Jane taking the granddaughter upstairs. I then heard them opening doors and talking, but even still, I didn't go upstairs until I heard them say something about dolls. I then went upstairs and I asked them both to leave my room, but at this point, Jane was already in my closet pointing at the dolls, and of course, they pointed to the boxes of Barbies. She pulled one off, showed it to her granddaughter, and told me she wanted to play with it. Well, when I told her, no, it's in the box for a reason, she seemed irritated at me and handed the box back to me. She then left my room and the child started crying, saying she wanted to play with the dolls. I then just went through my things and I found some of the dolls that I had opened as a kid and played with, and I offered them to her downstairs, but she just kept insisting on the princess doll. They didn't go back upstairs, but it really left me anxious now about my room. My mom is telling me to put a lock on my door because Jane visits often, and she tends to just wander around sometimes, but I'm just baffled that she would go into someone's house and think it's okay to touch their stuff. I'm from a Southeast Asian background, by the way, and this tends to be the attitude of some older women. They don't understand collectible culture and sentimentality to gifts. They think they're able to do whatever they want and open whatever they want. And this entire experience left me very frustrated, and I just don't know what to do. Oh man, dude, as someone who has collectibles of this nature, I would lose my mind. Like, seriously, they really think they could just go into my room and break open stuff that is absolutely none of their business? I'm sure those Barbies probably were not that expensive, or maybe they were. Maybe they were like some serious collectibles. But in my opinion, the point still stands, because I 100% agree with the original poster. You can't just go into someone's house and be like, oh, let me wander around and open up boxes that are none of my business. Now, the original poster updated and said they installed a lock this morning on the bedroom door, and they said that their mom is going to warn her friend not to go into that room in the future. They've also explained that they live in a small condo, so they don't have enough room to bring all their belongings with them to their place. So I think that's a good solution overall, because Jane sounds like an incredibly toxic and annoying person to deal with, and I would be very pissed off if I came back to my parents' house and I found all my stuff broken into, if not stolen outright. That would make me go crazy on this lady, but hopefully the lock on this door will keep that from happening. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled toxic landlord decides to evict a talented artist all because she made murals on every single wall of the house she was renting, saying that they wanted to live in this artistic house while getting rid of the person who created it. So my neighbor and I got some petty revenge by quite literally scraping all the art off the wall, leaving these people with absolutely nothing when they moved in. Here's what happened. Okay, so there's this house in our area that was well known for having really cool murals inside done by the previous tenant. The outside was pretty tame. She has a pre-built facade to make the house look like a cottage, but inside it was all hand-done murals of Disney movies and fairy tales. The lady was an art teacher when she was younger, and later she started one of those paint with wine type businesses, which she did really well, before fully retiring to just doing paint commissions and furniture decorating. She's always been nice to everyone, even when I've been a bit of a jerk to her when she complained about the truck being loud or speeding, because in the end we worked that out and we had been friends ever since then. She had an agreement with the original landlord about the art, basically stating that since it wasn't outside, it wasn't going to be a problem. She's been living in that house since like the mid-1980s with promises of getting the house in time. Unfortunately, he passed before anything was signed and legitimized, and his kids ended up taking over. Now, one of the sons visited the house to inspect it with his daughter, and apparently they fell in love with it, and they wanted the art house for his daughter. Now, my neighbor didn't have a lease, which made the fight harder, and they used the art on the walls as an excuse to kick her out. She was devastated, but she was able to buy a property that fits her needs at the last minute in another state that had a full art studio area on the first floor. She originally wanted to leave the house as is without the cottage-looking front, but my friend offered to restore the house to Rebecca's standards for free, since he needed to figure out how to use powered paint sprayers anyways. He also had a friend that did landscaping to help her with the front of the house, and overall she agreed, and we moved all of her furniture out to storage units, and my friend let her stay in his guest house free of charge if she did a mural on the living room wall. And she basically had that house cleaned out in a week. On the second week, they buffed all the walls with sanders. All of the murals from the front to the back were gone. It literally just looked like blotches of color. And my friend, being the ever-diligent painter that he is, masked anything that wasn't paint and basically sprayed primer everywhere with his new toy sprayer. And trust me, this thing was pretty awesome. You could spray a whole wall in like 4 passes. After the paint dried, he used his Rebecca collection of colors to essentially kill the character of the house. And Rebecca condition is basically what we call flipper houses, as it's always the same stupid colors. There's white with grays all over the house and the crappy dark tone Perigo flooring. The flooring were tiles, so we left it alone, but the walls were white semi-gloss. The wood paneling walls, the trim, the switch covers, the outlet covers, the counters, and the cabinets were all sprayed in the most depressing shade of gray. The house literally looked dead inside when I went in to check it out, and it was seriously super weird not seeing all the murals. The front of the house was the last project she agreed to, as she gave his landscaping friend the bushes in exchange for the labor removing the cottage facade without breaking it. And the landscaper basically just ripped everything out and just dumped gravel and sand with a boulder for decoration. This weekend, I went to fix some problems at an old neighbor's house, and I noticed the house was still empty, and I asked the neighbor if he had seen anyone move in. He said earlier in the week there was some U-Hauls there, but none of them were unloaded, and that was the last time they remember seeing anyone there. And I really hope that daughter was in for a surprise when she saw that this house got turned into a basic nightmarescape that was incredibly dull. Oh man, this is really the way to do it, man. Everyone in the comment section is saying this, and I agree. If you're gonna kick me out all because you want my art, then guess what? The art goes with me. I'm gonna scrape that off the wall so you have none of it. Because seriously, what were they really expecting? Did they really think like, oh yeah, we could just evict them and then enjoy all this art for free? Like, dude, screw that. These people suck. They don't deserve to have this kind of like artwork for them to enjoy, while also kicking out the person who literally did it. Like, what a bunch of scumbags. Like, seriously. So good for you and this neighbor for getting this done, because honestly, these landlords absolutely deserve to get shut down. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my mom wear white to my wedding, even though she claims it's her last chance to feel beautiful? Because right now I feel very disrespected and I really am not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I just turned 23 and I'm getting married in October. My mom and I have always had what I would refer to as a rocky relationship, especially since I got engaged. She's been oddly competitive, commenting on my body, comparing our rings, like we're in like some kind of competition, saying things like, "This day is as much about me as it is about you." And I honestly thought she was joking until she showed me the dress that she bought, a white floor-length gown that looks exactly like a bridal dress. And you know what? I told her flat out, she cannot wear that because in my opinion, it doesn't match the occasion. When I said this, she got quiet and then burst into tears. She said this was an opportunity to feel beautiful before getting old, and that I'm selfish for not letting her have this one thing. I felt really bad about this, so I also offered to go shopping with her to find something elegant and and more appropriate. And then all of a sudden her countenance changed, and she told me that I was controlling and ungrateful. What gave me peace though was that my fiance backed me up, as did my maid of honor. And now my mom is saying she's not going to come to the wedding, and my aunt says that I should just let her have this to avoid the drama. Now, I don't think I'm wrong for drawing a line here, but now part of me is wondering if I'm the jerk, because honestly, I don't know what to do. Dude, your mom is crazy. There is no way that this is appropriate. I guarantee you, the second she comes in there with that white dress on, she's gonna hijack your wedding and ruin your moment, because that's all she's trying to do. She's been competitive about your ring size and how your body looks, and just literally trying to take this moment away from you. So no, you're not the jerk for putting a line in the sand, because in my opinion, if she did decide to not show up, that probably would be for the best. Am I the jerk for leaving a bachelorette party early, all because it got way too expensive way too fast? Because right now I don't know what to do, and I'm honestly not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. I'm a 28-year-old female and I went on a bachelorette for the weekend. Prior to the trip, I let the group chat know that I'm on a budget and I need to know the expenses in advance before I can agree. And we all agreed on around $500, which I thought was doable. Before getting there, we paid for the hotel and we ride around since we were drinking, which was in total $300. We split it to where the bride wouldn't pay for these, which I was completely fine with. Then when I arrived, we had our dinner planned and we went to a fancy restaurant. I ordered the cheapest meal, and then one of the girls took the bill and paid for it. Then fast forward in the following day, I asked how much the tip was to pay my portion, and the girl responded by saying, "Oh, just split the check." But I said no, my meal was nothing compared to theirs. They then expected us to pay for the bride for everything she's ordered the entire trip, all while she's getting the most expensive meals and drinks the entire time. They then said to me, "Well, why would you come here and not pay for everything for her?" And don't get me wrong, I understand that you pay for certain things for the bride, but I really wasn't expecting to pay for her entire trip. I mean, other bachelorettes I've been on didn't do that. However, if they would have just told me in advance, I could have planned, because literally everybody knew except for me. So I told the bride that the girls were rude and that I can't afford to stay, and I'm honestly just completely uncomfortable. She then said it was fine and she appreciated my time. Now keep in mind, I wasn't invited to the wedding because she couldn't afford it, but I was also then uninvited to the bridal shower and as a friend. So am I the jerk for leaving early all because things were just way too expensive? Because right now I feel like I messed up and I just don't know if I'm in the wrong. Okay, let's rewind real quick because I think there's a bigger issue here. And someone in the comment section actually pointed this out and it kind of made me realize, wait a second. You're telling me you were invited to the bachelorette party, but you're still not invited to the wedding or the wedding shower? Dude, what's going on right now? Because it seems to me that these are not your friends, but instead they're like, "Oh, we can get some money out of her. If we invite enough people to this, it won't be as expensive." Or they could do exactly what they did and be like, "Yeah, let's just make her pay for everything." Dude, this is some crazy stuff going on right now. So to that extent, no, you are not the jerk here. These people all really suck. You were clearly only invited to cut expenses, and even then, they still didn't give you an honest accounting of how much everything was gonna cost. So yeah, these people suck, and I don't think these are your friends in the first place, because no friend of mine would ever treat me like this. Because this whole situation is incredibly toxic. Am I the jerk for refusing to take my shoes off in my friend's house, all because I had a medical condition that would not allow me to do so? Because this caused his wife to cancel our Dungeons and Dragons session for everybody in the house, and now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong or if I was justified in my actions. Here's what happened. I'm a 38-year-old male, and I was invited to a Dungeons and Dragons session with 4 other people at my friend's house who we will call Alex. When I got there, his wife answered the door and immediately asked me to take my shoes off because they have a strict no shoes policy due to them having a crawling baby. Well, I then explained to them that I have a medical condition that essentially makes the skin on my feet extremely fragile. Even mild friction or pressure can cause painful blisters and tears, so I have to wear supportive shoes with cushioned orthopedic insoles at all times, even indoors. Walking barefoot or just in socks causes me pain and can lead to bleeding. Well, she suggested I put grocery bags or socks over my shoes, but I told her that that's unsafe for walking and honestly just really insulting. She then said that she can't compromise her baby's health for my comfort, and when Alex came to the door, he told me to just deal with it for a couple of hours, or I wasn't welcome inside. I then told him I wasn't going to risk injuring myself over a Dungeons and Dragons session, and if my shoes were that big of an issue, then I would just respectfully leave. As I walked back to my car, I overheard his wife telling the other guests that were already there that the night was off because I made a huge scene at the door. And then later, I got a group text from Alex saying that he was canceling Dungeons and Dragons night because apparently it's not fair to expect everyone else to pretend nothing happened. Some of my mutual friends say that I overreacted and I could have just sucked it up, while others think that Alex and his wife were ridiculous for ruining everyone else's plans just because I decided not to stay. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm not sure if I did anything wrong. Okay, honestly, there is no reason why the original poster couldn't cover their shoes with bags. Like seriously, that is a reasonable solution. You literally made this a big deal by being like, my comfort and safety is more important than this. I'm gonna leave. Like they didn't ruin the night, you did. So for you to be like, oh wow, look at the way they're handling this. They ruin everybody else's plans. But it's like, dude, the lack of self-awareness is so insane in my opinion. Because if anybody ruined plans for the night, it absolutely was you. So yes, I think the original poster was a jerk. Because putting bags over your shoes would have been an easy solution that even a toddler could have handled. Am I the jerk for saying it's inappropriate that my brother's girlfriend keeps wearing my clothes around the house? Because at this point, she's just straight up stealing from me whenever she wants. And despite complaining about it, literally no one in my house sees things the way that I do, leaving me in a situation where truly I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I'm a 17-year-old female and I live at home with my mom and my brother. My brother's 23 and his girlfriend is also 23, and she's been staying over more often, like multiple nights a week. I'm not judging that part too much. She is great to be around, but what's really bothering me is that she keeps wearing my clothes. The first few times it was with permission, and I would agree and just lend her my stuff, but now I'll just wake up and see her walking around the kitchen wearing one of my shirts like it's normal. I mean, I never said she could freely take anything. When I brought it up to my brother, he said it'd be a hassle to make her pack more stuff, and that it's just a nice way to make her feel more welcomed and at home, and that it would be even more inappropriate for her to wear his clothing around the house. But it's like, okay, how is that my problem? I'm not her closet, and I don't know why she doesn't just wear my mom's stuff too. I told him it made me uncomfortable, especially because there's something intimate about her wearing my stuff, and it reminds me that she's sleeping in his bed. And I don't want that picture in my head, dude. Honestly, it just feels kind of gross. Our mom is staying out of it, but she didn't disagree with me. But I don't know if she sees it the same way I do or just doesn't care. And for the record, yes, I have a lock on my door, but not all of my clothing are in my closet. All of the overflow clothing are just sometimes folded in the laundry room, which is accessible to anyone. I know I'm gonna have to talk directly to her soon, but I just hate feeling like I'm gonna start some drama, all because nobody else in the house sees my issue. Because right now I really don't know what to do. Oh yeah, this is completely inappropriate. This is such a double standard, it's not even funny. How is it okay for her to wear your clothing, but not for her to wear his clothing? Or maybe your mom's clothing or something like that. She's clearly like poaching stuff off of you and being like, oh, I'll wear this one today. And I'm right there with the original poster. I would be very uncomfortable with this and I'd be like, no, this is not happening. I don't like this. Especially with the mental image of them sleeping together wearing your clothing. Like that really is creepy. So no, you're not the jerk here and I don't blame you for being upset. And honestly, it is so annoying that your mom and your brother simply can't see where you're coming from. Because all of this makes sense and this really should not be your problem. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories because we would love to hear them. Am I the jerk for telling my best friend that I can't be her maid of honor if she insists on a child-free wedding but still expects me to leave my newborn baby for 3 days? Because right now she is literally making me choose between her or my baby, and I'm honestly feeling torn and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So me and my best friend, who I will call Sarah, have been close forever. She asked me to be her maid of honor for her wedding next year and I was super excited and I said yes right away. But a few weeks ago, she said the whole wedding was gonna be child-free. Like no kids at all, including babies. And that's kind of a problem because I'm due to have my first baby 2 months before the wedding. I talked to her gently and I let her know I'd love to be there for her, but I can't leave a newborn for 3 whole days. The wedding weekend includes travel, rehearsal dinner, bachelorette stuff, the whole thing. I told her I'd be breastfeeding and it just wouldn't be possible to leave my baby that long. She then got really cold after that, said I was making it about me and not caring about her biggest day. Then she told me I need to pick between my baby and her wedding. I honestly don't think I'm being unreasonable, but now I'm feeling torn. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I really am not sure if I'm making a mistake. Okay, I want to start off by saying that post on the Am I the Jerk subreddit literally reached over 1 million people. So if you want your story seen, we would absolutely love to read it over there because we check those stories out all the time. And this one just so happened to be one of the top ones this week. And honestly, this story blows my mind because holy crap, Sarah is a terrible friend in my opinion. Like seriously, they're trying to be like, you need to choose between your baby or me. Because it's like, oh, this is going to be an easy choice. I'm going to pick my baby and give you the peace sign and probably never talk to you again. Because how entitled and selfish can you possibly get? This isn't like a toddler that you could leave with someone. This is a newborn that literally needs constant care. And it's like, hey, Sarah, just in case you don't know, that baby probably really should be around the mom. And I bet the mom's probably really wanting to be around that baby. So no, you're definitely not the jerk because this is, in my opinion, some insane behavior. Am I the jerk for leaving my boyfriend's mom's birthday dinner early after she kept making really awful comments about my job? Here's how it went down. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been together for almost 2 years. His mom has never really liked me and it's not exactly a secret. I'm a hairstylist and I rent a chair at a nice salon, and I do well for myself, but every time I see her, she makes these little jokes about how I should find a real career or that I should go back to school while I'm still young. Well, fast forward, and last night was her birthday dinner. We went to a restaurant with his family and I was seated right next to her. Within the first 20 minutes, she made 3 separate comments about my work, including asking me if I still make tips in cash like a waitress. I laughed it off at first, but then she said to me, "Don't worry, you'll figure out what you want to do eventually." And she said this in front of everyone, and they all just kind of awkwardly laughed along with her. I then excused myself to the bathroom and I told my boyfriend I wasn't feeling well, so I went ahead and I left. Now, he ended up staying behind because it was his mom's birthday, but later he told me I embarrassed him and made his mom feel bad. But I told him I'm tired of being the punchline, and I'm not gonna sit there and smile through it anymore. But now he says I overreacted and I should have just ignored it. But I think he's not ever going to stick up for me, so I had every right to leave. So am I the jerk for leaving early and not wanting to put up with this any longer? Because right now I'm honestly very frustrated and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, this is some stupid behavior because I can't stand when people do this, where they literally will excuse someone who's making these awful comments and then put the onus on you to be like, you need to be the bigger person. You need to sit there and take it because you made my mom feel bad. And it's like, brother, your mom should feel bad. You can't make these comments about someone and then be like, oh wow, they left. Now I feel bad about the crappy things I said. Because you should feel bad about saying them before you say it, dude. Like some basic social skills would tell you that. Like, what's going on right now? And what's the deal with your boyfriend not sticking up for you? If that was my mom saying those things about my girlfriend, you better believe I'm gonna speak up and be like, wait a second, don't say that about her. That's mean. Because seriously, there is nothing wrong with being a hairstylist. If that's how you make a living, then fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. So for his mom to sit there and be like, oh, you need a real job. You need to go back to school while you're still young. Like, that's super disrespectful and so dismissive of the original poster. Like, does he not care about your feelings at all? Like, dude, what's wrong with this guy? So in my opinion, this is not only a big red flag about your boyfriend, but also this is absolutely not your fault. Because if this guy's not willing to stand up for you now, then I seriously doubt he ever will in the future, which is something you do not deserve in the slightest. My entitled coworker literally got fired for stealing my earbuds off of my desk, as he literally tried to replace them with some cheap dollar store knockoff, while also trying to gaslight me into believing that the ones he stole were actually his. And I'm honestly so glad this guy got fired because he was incredibly sketchy. Here's what happened. Okay, so this all happened back in 2016. I have a coworker who didn't strike me as a bad guy, but something was just weird with him. He would be cagey about the most innocent topics, as though he wanted to appear mysterious and involved with things that you just don't need to worry about. He really wanted to be perceived as connected and lucrative. And I could go on and on about the weird stuff this guy did, coming to work high on painkillers and openly talking about it after he faked an arm injury and had no prescription, all the way to leasing expensive cars to give off the impression of wealth. Like, this guy thought he was completely untouchable. He would throw parties and invite everyone, and one time I went and it was at a mansion. The entire time he was just posturing and implying that this was his house. But I was chatting with a staff member and she told me he was just house sitting for a family friend or something like that. I mean, this guy was completely full of crap. Now, enough with the context. This is where the story really kicks into gear. I keep a pair of earbuds on my desk at work. They aren't expensive or anything like that, so they would just sit there when I left for the day, because we work in a normal office and nobody steals stupid crap like that. Well, or so I thought. One day I'm sitting there and I realized that something is different about my headphones. It takes me a few seconds, but I realize that the silicone earpieces are black, but before they were opaque white. And I think to myself, wait a second, what's going on? Upon further inspection, my earbuds had been swapped with some dollar store generic ones, like the sort you would get when you fly Economy Plus and they pass them out with the small pretzel packages. My immediate thought was that one of my coworkers is playing a prank, so I go around and I ask everyone what's going on. Now, as you can probably guess, I did a lot of foreshadowing already, so I'm going to just jump ahead. I walk up and this guy had them in plain view on his desk. When I confronted him about it, he swore up and down that they were his and I must be confused. I ended up just grabbing them and throwing the fake ones on his desk and walking away because it was 100% obvious these were mine. Meanwhile, I had already asked half the floor if they were just messing with me earlier that morning. Like, even the manager knew I was looking for those stupid earbuds, presumably on the receiving end of a prank. He then came by and asked me if I ever found them, and I told him exactly what happened. Well, a few hours later, this guy got fired. Apparently, there were a lot of other things that he had done, and they just needed a valid reason to make it happen. In fact, he was here on a work visa and had to move back to his home country, because this guy is the epitome of playing stupid games, since today he finally cashed in and won his stupid prize. Oh man, imagine being so sketchy that you literally would steal from a coworker, resulting in you literally getting sent back to your home country. Like if I was in a work visa overseas, I would be on my best behavior. I would literally do everything I can to not get in any trouble because I 100% want to keep my job and not ruin it for myself. And this guy absolutely blew it in my opinion. All he had to do was behave himself and not act like a moron, and he probably would have been just fine. But if his shady behavior wasn't enough, him stealing from the original poster is like the nail in the coffin. So I think overall you did a good thing by catching this guy because these people needed a reason to get rid of him, and you gave him the perfect one right then and there. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled coworker tries to get me in trouble at work, all because I didn't invite her to my wedding. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is honestly one of the weirdest work things I've ever dealt with. There's a woman in my office I'm friendly with, but I'm really not close to. We've had small talk here and there, but it's never been anything deep. We've never had lunches together and had no real outside of work connection. She found out I was getting married and asked when the wedding was, and then she straight up asked if she was invited. I kind of laughed and I said, "Oh no, it's just really small, just close friends and family." And honestly, I didn't think anything of it. She then got quiet and a little cold after that, but I figured, okay, maybe it's just an awkward moment, but whatever. Well, fast forward a few days later and I get a meeting invite from Human Resources. It turns out she filed a complaint saying that I was being exclusive and creating a hostile environment by leaving people out. And this is all because I didn't invite her to my wedding that I'm paying for that isn't even work related. So I had to sit in this meeting and explain that I'm not required to invite coworkers I barely know to my literal wedding. I explained that it's a personal event and that it has nothing to do with work or who's in the office. Human Resources honestly looked just as confused as I was. They basically said, "Yeah, okay, thanks," and then they closed the case. But now she acts super passive-aggressive towards me, like side eyes, little digs when I walk by, still bringing up these weird sarcastic comments, saying stuff like, "Well, some people are so inclusive these days." And I can't believe she actually thought Human Resources could make me invite her. Some people really do think they're the main character, and this lady absolutely fits the bill. Okay, you've got to be a special kind of stupid to complain about this. Like seriously, dude, what are you thinking? Did she really think that Human Resources was going to do anything to change this? Like, dude, what an idiot. Because the original poster has it right. They're not obligated to invite you to the wedding. So yeah, this really was a weird situation, and honestly, it's incredibly funny because this coworker's entitlement was completely out of line. My entitled daughter demands that I hand over my retirement money as she says I need to buy her a house instead of using it for myself when I retire. But after I said no, I'm not going to do that, she called me selfish and has started telling other relatives that I'm hoarding money. And at this point, I'm honestly so heartbroken that I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 55-year-old female and I've been a single mom for most of my life. I worked multiple jobs, I sacrificed vacations, and I skipped luxuries just to give my daughter, who's now 26, a somewhat decent life. She had everything she needed growing up: private school, a used car at 18, even partial support through college. I never asked for much in return, just for her to be responsible and independent. Well, lately she's been pressuring me about my retirement savings. She found out I've been aggressively saving for the past 10 years so that I can retire early and travel, and maybe finally enjoy my life just a little bit. Well, her response was to say, "You should use that money to help me get a house." I told her kindly but firmly that I've already done my job as a parent. I'm not rich, I just planned well, and honestly, I deserve some peace. But she snapped at me. She said to me, "So you're just gonna be selfish now after everything I went through growing up?" But I told her I'm the one who went through a nightmare to try and raise her with some kind of stability. And now she's been giving me the cold shoulder and telling other relatives that I'm hoarding money while she struggles just to make rent. So right now I feel very jaded and honestly very hurt by this, and I just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, your daughter is incredibly spoiled, and she completely missed the point that, yeah, you sacrifice a lot for her. And just because you've saved a lot of money doesn't mean that she's somehow entitled to it. Like seriously, look at what she's saying right now. She's saying, I think it's time you buy me a house." "Oh, you're not gonna do that? Well, guess what? Now you're selfish. I went through so much growing up." And it's like, what do you mean? You had a stable home with a mom who cared about you, and she helped you through college to a certain extent. Like, you literally have every advantage in life, and now here you are at 26, trying to act like you deserve this retirement money. Like, dude, what are you talking about? So I know if I was in your shoes, I would not fall for that crap for a second. If she wants to say that you're hoarding money, then congratulations, that's exactly what you're doing. Because this is all manipulative so that she can get this money out of you to buy a house or do literally anything else with it. And I really think that would be a disservice to you since you've saved so much money and done so much to try and secure your future, which by the way, you absolutely deserve to have some kind of peace. Today, I was terminated without any warning, so I decided to get some petty revenge by reporting my former employer for tax evasion. Here's how it's all going down. Okay, so I was working a 1099 position that was bringing in around an extra $3,000 a month. I was able to do this job alongside my full-time job with no issues. I turned in my work on time, I attended all my meetings, and I had even gotten a great report from one of my clients. My job must have suspected I was doing more than one position, however, and they started demanding that I check my email at least once every hour, and even set hours for me as an independent contractor. I had to report when I was out of the office, whether for injury or something else. Well, I pointed out that I was an independent contractor, and that none of those things were a contractual obligation. In fact, the entire reason I took the extra work with this company was the flexibility, but they just ignored this and continued to push. Well, a few weeks ago at nearly midnight, I received a termination email. No phone call, not even a text message. I went to log into my computer the next day, and I saw my credentials were invalid. I reached out to my supervisor, and I was told to check my personal email, with them adding a snide remark of, well, if you even do that. And then that was the end of it. Well, I stewed on this for a few days before I finally did something. I reported them for mislabeling my position as an independent contractor when in fact I should have been a W-2 employee. The IRS has a ton of information on what constitutes an independent contractor and what doesn't, and I met none of the criteria for an independent contractor. They were doing this to avoid paying taxes on their employees and to avoid having to offer insurance. So you know what? I reported them. I would wager that this is still ongoing for them as it's only been a few weeks. I'm not excited about potentially putting people out of work, but I am simply tired of being screwed over by my employers. Okay, I love this because the original poster is standing up for themselves. And my God, this is absolutely the way you want to do it. He's standing on business, man. He is not letting this slide for a second because this employer absolutely was crossing a line here that is just completely unacceptable. So I think that what you did is completely justified, and hopefully karma comes to bite them in the butt for the way they treated you. Am I the jerk for taking a walk during my lunch break, despite the fact that some of my coworkers and my parents are saying that I shouldn't be allowed to do that? Here's what's going on. A few years ago, I started working at a job that was more office-based than previous jobs. Because of that, I was moving less and gaining some weight, and I am very out of shape as it is. I'm not overweight, but I'm carrying a little more fat than I'm used to, and I can tell my cardio ability has gone down. Now, I get a 1-hour paid lunch per day. A lot of my coworkers eat at their desk and do very little work, like maybe answering an email if that, but mostly they're just eating. I personally go to my car to eat and then do laps around the parking garage before I go back in. I'm never gone for more than an hour, and I always come back on time. Well, recently I did my normal routine. I grabbed my lunch, I went to my car and I ate it, and then I started on my walk. I happened to run into a coworker during my walk, and he was out there because he forgot something and needed something from his car. He then stopped me and asked what I was doing, and I told him that I ate my lunch and now I'm taking a walk before my lunch break is over. Well, he didn't like that answer and said that our lunch break is for eating, not for walking, and that when I'm done eating, I should go back to work. But I told him we're given an hour for lunch, and I want to use all of it in the best way that I can. Now, I think he may have told other people about this because now I've been receiving comments before I go on break that I didn't receive before. I don't think I was wrong. I'm entitled to my break. All my work gets done on time. I take it at about the same time every day, so it's expected I won't be available, and I maybe come back for a few non-urgent emails. I have my phone on me in case someone calls me for an emergency, which honestly just never happened. I talked to my parents about it, and they both said that they work through lunch and that I shouldn't be out walking, but also they're older and they were raised in a different time, so I don't know if I should trust their judgment. So honestly, am I the jerk for taking a walk during my lunch break? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, in my opinion, the second you clock out for your lunch break, you can literally do whatever you want. Maybe you want to go to the bank or go to the grocery store to pick up some groceries or something like that, or even take a walk around the parking garage. What you do with your time is literally your business. So the fact that your coworker is trying to talk about you behind your back and is seriously trying to be like, wow, you should go back to work when you're done eating. That's stupid in my opinion and not something I would ever pay attention to, because his opinion literally doesn't matter. An entitled Karen parks in my driveway every single day, claiming that she knows this is my spot, and yet still she's gonna keep using it, which honestly is blowing my mind because I've never met someone this entitled in my life. Here's what's going on. Okay, so one morning I looked out my window to suddenly see a random woman parking in my driveway. For context, my parking spot fits 2 cars, but my partner usually parks there, or my parents do when they come over. over. The first day this happened, I thought I would give her the benefit of the doubt, as I wasn't sure if she was just mistaken. She looked up from scrolling on her phone and gave me a filthy look as if to say, "Why are you staring at me?" and then made a gesture with her hand to say that she's leaving. She then sat further for 5 more minutes on her phone and then she left. Well, the next morning I see the car parked there again and she's nowhere to be seen. I then decided to leave a note on her windscreen asking her to please not park there ever again. Well, after a few hours of checking out the window to see if she had come back or not, she eventually arrives with a grin on her face. I ask if she works around the area and told her that it's my driveway and that she cannot park there. Well, to my surprise, she says to me, "I know it is, but I'm just using it." And I said, "You can't park there. I need it. It's my space." She then said to me, "Well, I work around the corner and there's no parking, so I go here." I then pointed to the various spots I could see, and she said she won't park there again. She then ripped up my note, threw it in the drain, and then proceeded to sit in the drop curb, giving me filthy looks before finally driving off. I'm not sure if she's gonna come back, but I assume that she probably will try to do so. So as a result, I've started parking diagonally to stop her from accessing my spot, because this seriously is some crazy behavior. Okay, dude, if someone did this to me, I would give them one chance to be a nice person about it and just move their car, and then that would be the end of it. Because trust me, if someone tried that again, I would happily tow that car. So yeah, you can park your car diagonally, or you can catch her on camera parking there again, and then call up a tow truck to get rid of her car. Because her attitude and the way she talked to you is just completely unacceptable, especially because she knows exactly what she's doing. Am I the jerk for not allowing any Airbnb guests to use my patio, since they are literally invading my private space? Here's what's going on. So I bought a flat as an immigrant a few years ago that was all around from the ground up in a country with a bad reputation. Like even the street and the city it was in was bad as well. I won't say that it was just luck, but the country became an attractive country to visit. The city developed a lot, and my street, being in the center, became very attractive to visitors. Now, my street has been fully renovated, and so has the facade of my building, because thankfully we got public funds for that. And while the inside is still not that great looking, we're honestly just completely fine with that. My flat is the only one that opens to the courtyard, and after speaking to the neighbors, they were all enthusiastic for me to turn my corner of the courtyard into something pretty on whichever way I felt. Now, in this kind of building, it is defined how much each apartment owns of the land, but it's not delimited. So I own, let's say, about 5% of the land. Usually I would use it for the parking space, but it's not like you have delimited parking space, and since I don't drive, I asked my neighbors if I could take the corner next to my door as mine. This was a no parking space, and everyone enthusiastically agreed to let me make a mini garden and patio. After the city and the street blew up with tourism, someone did some legal trickery to buy the flats on top of mine that were supposedly to be safe for low-income people and turn them into an Airbnb. Now, we were not happy about it for many reasons, starting with the fact that those flats were supposed to be for actual low-income people. But this is where the actual conflict comes into play. I let my neighbors use my patio, but I've been kicking Airbnb guests out of it. Apparently, the Airbnb host posts pictures of my little corner of the courtyard as some kind of public space. But I don't think it's a public space since I own part of the land, and the Airbnb owner definitely does not, and has been accepted that this is my portion of the land. Now, the Airbnb owner is saying that he will sue me for discrimination since I share my little patio with the other neighbors, but I don't allow tourists in it, and he's had some negative reviews. Now, I need to emphasize, I'm absolutely safe legally, but when it comes to morally, I need to know, am I the jerk for not allowing tourists in my space, even though I let my neighbors use it no problem? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. This is your private space. This is your private patio, and it's not a public space that anyone can go to. And in my opinion, this Airbnb owner is a complete jerk. He advertised that space as something that anyone could go to. But it's like, dude, you don't own that. Why would you be like, oh yeah, you could come along and go to this place. This is totally fine. Like, no, you can't. This is my private space that I built up. Don't pretend like this is a public space. Like, what's going on right now? So no, you're not the jerk for kicking them off, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for refusing to move out so that my roommate's boyfriend can move in? Because right now I feel very disrespected and I'm not sure if I'm making a mistake. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my roommate and I split our lease 50-50, and currently we're on a month-to-month basis as we have been living here for about a year and a half. Last week she sat me down and told me that her and her boyfriend want to take the next step and move in together. As she was telling me about it, she told me I need to leave and find a new place to live. Well, I'm refusing to leave as I believe that the person who wants to change is is the person that should facilitate that, and that I should not have to uproot my life by finding a new place, as well as spending the money to move in order to make that happen for her. She says that she is entitled to stay because she made a garden in the backyard and does the majority of the yard work. Also, most of the furniture is hers. And these are things that I've taken into consideration, but ultimately, I decided that I wanted to stay. I also made it clear that I was okay with her staying and her boyfriend moving in, since she already has the master bedroom, but they say they want to live without a roommate. So honestly, am I the jerk for refusing to move out? What should I do? Okay, I 100% agree with the original poster. If their roommate really wants to have a new place with their boyfriend, then guess what? They absolutely should be the ones to move out. You should not be expected to uproot your life just so they can have the place to themselves. Like, what's going on right now? Like, this is some crazy behavior and she's just trying to like guilt trip you out of that place. And that sucks. Like, that really is not something you deserve. Because at the end of the day, she is not more important than you. It's not her house to kick you out of, and you literally have the same rights to that space as she does. And if she really doesn't like that, then guess what? She can move out and find a place with her boyfriend, which in my opinion is the only logical solution in this situation. My entitled future mother-in-law demands free salon service all because I'm marrying her son. But I definitely gave her a rude awakening when I told her straight up that that was absolutely not gonna happen. Here's how it went down. I'm a 28-year-old female and I've been dating my boyfriend, who we will call Patrick, for about 2 years now. We both know each other's families, but we chose not to make our relationship public until we were ready to get married. Well, last month we finally made it official and informed his family that we are getting married. Well, while we were with his family, his mom asked me about my livelihood. I told her that I'm a hairstylist and that I own a salon about an hour from their house. Well, when I told her this, her response was to say, "Oh wow, at least now we don't have to pay to get our hair done again. We'll start with ours first so we can see how good you are before you officially become my daughter-in-law." Well, when she said this, I just kind of smiled and didn't say anything. Fast forward to 3 days later and she actually calls me. After the usual small talk, she says, "Please, where's your salon located again?" I gave her the address and she then goes, "Oh, that's too far. I can't come all the way there. I'll need you to come today to braid my hair." So I asked her what style she wanted and I told her the price for home service. Well, she responded by saying, "No, I'm not paying for it. After all, you're going to be my daughter-in-law soon." I then politely told her that I don't offer free home service, especially not for an hour-long trip, and then I just hung up the call. Okay, this is some crazy entitlement in my opinion, because like seriously, did she really think that this was going to be some kind of like free service for life? First of all, this is some real true colors coming through, and it's a massive red flag when it comes to getting into this family. I think the original poster knows that, but like holy crap. Imagine 3 days after finding out you're going to have a new daughter-in-law, you go to them and say, "Oh, I can't wait to take advantage of your business. Drive an hour to my house right now and braid my hair, please." No, I'm not going to pay. Why would I? Like, dude, what are you talking about? This is a horrible first impression. Like, seriously, you're doing a terrible job at being a reliable new in-law in this person's life. Like, this mother-in-law literally just proved that no, she doesn't care about your livelihood, she's gonna try and take advantage of you, and no, she's a tightwad who's not gonna pay you for your service. Which is like, okay, that's like 3 strikes and you're out in my opinion. There's no way I'm ever gonna do anything for you after that again. But I really do love the way you handle this, because this is completely unacceptable. You didn't entertain her for a second, you said, "No, I'm not gonna do that," and then you hung up the phone. Because this lady seriously was so indignant that she was like, "Oh, I'm not paying for that." All under the assumption that just because you're daughter-in-law means that you get to circumvent this entire business and get free service. And that, in my opinion, is super toxic. My toxic landlord increases my rent by literally $1,000, claiming that it's all because of inflation. But despite the fact that he raised it well beyond what would be reasonable, I decided to still get some petty revenge by costing this guy an extra $1,000 every single year by doing one thing that he would never expect. Here's what I did. Okay, to start things out, my husband and I moved to Western New York State in August of 2020 during peak pandemic chaos for his job. We sold our house in another state because the idea of being long-distance landlords during a global crisis sounded like an absolute nightmare. We knew this job wasn't going to be long-term, so we decided to rent so we didn't have to worry about selling a house when we moved to our home state. With 2 kids and a dog, we needed a place in a good school district that also allowed pets. The rental market was tight, but we managed to find a 3-bedroom apartment in a complex that seemed decent. The rent was $2,000 a month. It had a pool, a small gym, a playground, some basketball courts, and a one-time $500 non-refundable pet fee. And honestly, it sounded pretty reasonable. Now, the school district is excellent excellent, and at first the complex seemed fine. But then reality set in. It turns out that almost every rental in our district is owned by one guy. Yeah, that's right, just one person. He owns most of the rental properties in the area, and his staff handles the day-to-day management. There's constantly changes among his staff, and this is a big red flag. The ones who actually care and fix things quickly just don't seem to last that long. Since we moved in, our rent has climbed from $2,000 a month to $3,000 a month. Now, before people jump down my throat and give me an economics lesson, yeah, I get it. I understand inflation. But a rent bump up to like $2,400 or even $2,500 would account for inflation. And yeah, I used an inflation calculator to try and understand what it should be. But $3,000 for rent is just predatory. When tenants ask about the increase, management claims it's because of rising cost. I've made friends with several of the lifeguards and maintenance workers, and not one of them has received a raise in years. Nothing has been updated in the 5 years that we have been here. Maintenance takes ages now, and the work isn't great. They also closed the pool in mid-August, even though school districts don't start until Labor Day. They say it's because they can't find lifeguards, but the lifeguards have told me directly that they offered to stay and were told no. So basically, the translation means that the owner just didn't want to pay for it. Real estate taxes in the area haven't gone up either, and yes, I did check this, and in fact, they've gone down. Now, you might be wondering, well, why don't you just move? Well, it's because of the schools. That's the main reason we're here. We don't want to uproot our kids, and the landlord knows it. There are virtually no other rental options for this school that he doesn't own. We're not looking to buy either because we're moving back to our home state in a year or two. So basically, we're stuck, just like many other families and retirees in the complex. But with that in mind, this is where my petty revenge comes into play. There are over 150 apartments in this complex, and every single one has had the same kind of price hike. And don't worry, the landlord definitely is not hurting. When he shows up at the leasing office, he pulls in driving some ultra luxury car that costs more than a house. I'm not a car person, so I can't name it, but I looked it up once and it was literally over $500,000. And it's like, seriously, don't show up with a $500,000 car and then tell your tenants that you're barely breaking even. Get yourself a beat up Camry for property visits and at least act like you're struggling. Now here's where things get nice and petty. I remember that when we owned a house, we had an above ground pool with a heater. I didn't realize how expensive it was to run it continuously, so I kept it heated toasty warm for a couple of weeks. But when the energy bill arrived, my husband nearly had a heart attack. And it's like, oh man, that was an accident. But through that, I also learned exactly how pool heaters work. And when it's cool at night and it's only in the 70s during the day, it is very expensive to run a pool heater 24/7. So this past Sunday on the Sabbath day, the Lord came to me and showed me that the landlord needs to live his truth and help him not break commandment number 9. If he says the costs are rising, then this lady's gonna do the Lord's work. Now, it had rained a few days earlier, and nighttime temperatures dropped into the 60s, meaning that the pool had gone cold. In June, the property manager had turned the heater on when the weather was cool, and so it was nice, but by July, the pool stayed warm on its own. Once the temperature dropped again, the water was freezing. The heater was still off, or at least set too low to actually activate. And of course, the manager of this section definitely got run out just like the rest of them. So I asked the lifeguard, is the pool heater in that little utility room next to the pool? And he said to me, it might be. The door's always open, but I think I'm just gonna look the other way. And they literally laughed as I was like, oh, okay, plausible deniability, smart move. Well, when I checked, the heater was there, and the temperatures were set so low it wouldn't even turn on. But you know what? I changed that immediately. I bumped it up to 85 degrees. I was tempted to go to 90, but that can trigger algae growth, and I want to enjoy the pool, not shut it down. Well, right away, warm water started flowing in, and it was glorious. Everyone at the pool that day noticed and commented on how perfect it felt. The next day, someone must have turned it back down, and I could tell the pool had cooled a little, so it was starting to get a little uncomfortable. So I just went right back over and I turned it up again. And I kept doing this every single day. And because I'm petty and you're here for this long tale, I did the math and I went down an ADHD rabbit hole, and I found a calculator that estimates pool heating costs based on size, outdoor temperature, and the heater settings. And the change in temperature I made will double the heating costs for the last few weeks of the season. I also did some quick math on what the landlord is making from these rent hikes. Even being conservative, he's pulled in an extra $600,000 per year by raising rent far beyond inflation. And he was already making a solid profit before. Look, I don't have a problem with someone making a profit, but I do have a problem with lying about costs, stiffing your workers, and pushing tenants harder than necessary just because you know they're stuck. If my neighbors are going to be out that money anyways, we are going to enjoy a warm pool. The people who were there this week got to enjoy the results of my small act of righteous rebellion, and so will the rest of the complex for the final weeks of the season. Godspeed, my petty friends, because this guy absolutely deserved it, and I wish I did this sooner. I love this so much because I can't stand landlords who act this way. Like, I know of people who have had really bad landlords, and this definitely fits the bill. They increase your rent, they're like, oh, we're barely scraping by. And then just like what the original poster said, they roll up and they're like completely fine. They've got a great car, they've got a great watch, they've got the newest phone. It's like so ridiculous. So if you turning on that heater cost them a couple extra $1,000, then honestly, this landlord definitely deserves it. Especially if they're gonna hike people's rent up who honestly are just trying to make a living. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by flying my mom and brother in from Brazil to visit me in the United States. Because right now, my mom has not only tried to ruin my relationship with my husband, but she's also turned my younger brother against me, someone I'm desperately trying to reconnect with after all these years. And at this point, I honestly do not know what to do. Here's what's happening. I live in the United States and hadn't seen my mom or 15-year-old brother in over a year. They live in Brazil and I wanted to give them a special experience. So I paid for everything, including 2 international business class tickets as we used to do once a year, to make them feel comfortable and loved. I had planned this trip with care, especially hoping to reconnect with my brother. But from the moment they arrived, my mom was cold, critical, and manipulative in 2 days. She made passive-aggressive remarks. She would say stuff like, "You could have married better." And she mocked the fact that I cook and care for my home, even though she lives in Brazil with maids and drivers, and she's supported largely by my help. But then things escalated. During a weekend trip, she messaged my husband privately, saying she wanted to speak to him alone. Well, he immediately showed me and told me he wouldn't be entertaining that. But the next morning while I was upstairs, she cornered him at the hotel anyways. He texted me while it was happening because he didn't want this drama or to even entertain this type of behavior because he was clearly uncomfortable with it. When I came down for breakfast, he told her directly, "Anything you want to say should be said between the both of us." But in that private moment, she had already tried. She brought up personal things I did over 6 years ago, trying to throw dirt and stir up doubt in our marriage. But what she didn't expect was that my husband already knew everything. And he asked her calmly and clearly, "Look, I know all of this. What exactly is your goal in bringing this up?" She then started to cry, and he was just all over meetings and asked us to leave the table at breakfast. And later, when we were in the room, I tried to ask why she would do that. Now, for context, we went to a really cool place for a weekend, and she just ruined it. She stayed in the room trying to burn down bridges with my own husband. After we arrive, and when she figured she won't manipulate my husband, and they clash personalities, she locked herself in the room for an entire week. Like, why would my mother try to sabotage her daughter's relationship with a man who is my partner, husband, and we're just so happy together? Well, after that, she tried to play the victim. And slowly, she turned my brother against me. The boy I love like my own son, the one I wanted to reconnect with, now barely looks at me and barely speaks. He stays in the room with her, and I just feel erased in my own home. We have 2 days left, and I'm emotionally drained. I gave them everything: comfort, love, respect, and I'm walking away with silence, manipulation, and heartbreak. What would you do after something like this? How do you recover when your own mother tries to burn down the life that you built and takes your brother with her? What should I do? Okay, first of all, I'm so sorry that this happened because this is not fair for you or your family at all. You literally flew them over to your place and you try to show them a good time and make them feel loved, and more importantly, reconnect with your younger brother, which I completely get. This really is a crappy situation. You don't deserve this, and this really sucks. But on that note, if this doesn't become like a learning lesson, in my opinion, and you now set boundaries between you and your mother, then honestly, this will be a complete waste and she'll try this crap again. I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do, but if a family member of mine went to my partner and tried to turn them against me, I would probably immediately start finding ways to cut them out of my life. That's just me though, I can't speak for you, but like, you're literally telling me that you're giving them so much money and support, and she's gonna turn around and act like this? Like, dude, what's going on right now? This is not okay. That kind of garbage is unacceptable. And it really sucks because your brother's 15 years old and he can't really make decisions on his own yet. And to that extent, I'm so sorry, but it probably looks like you're gonna have to wait until he's 18 to really reconnect with him, which sucks. Like, you don't deserve that at all. But for me, I would stop sending money and I would absolutely be like, okay, you want to treat me like crap? Congratulations. Here's a flight home early. Figure your life out. Because your mom is clearly taking advantage of you and you do not deserve this treatment in the slightest. Am I the jerk for refusing to take my ex-wife to the ER, even though she literally had other options available to her that could have taken her instead? Because right now I feel kind of like a jerk and I'm not sure what to do. Here's how it all went down. So this incident occurred a decade ago, but recently it came up in conversation with my oldest son, who was 7 years old at the time. While I believed I was justified in the moment, over the years I have come to the conclusion that I am not proud of my actions that day, even though my son maintains that I did the right thing. 6 months prior to this incident, my wife and I had agreed to divorce after after her extramarital activities came to light. We agreed on everything except who would keep the house, but I told her unless she took over the mortgage and the utilities, I would not be leaving. 2 months prior, when it was evident that I was staying put, she made a play to remove me from the home and actually had me served with a 2-week temporary restraining order. Well, caught off guard, I rented a room with a coworker in the neighborhood and I hired a lawyer. I followed all the rules. I went to court, I answered all the judge's questions, and the temporary restraining order was revoked. After 3 weeks, I was back in my house and she was angrier than ever. And I'm including this background only because it explains my combative state of mind during the event. 2 weeks prior, I took my kids out of state to visit family for Christmas and New Year's. I asked my soon-to-be ex-wife, who we will call Amy, if she could shovel the walk and the porch stairs while we were away. Well, as you can probably imagine, she didn't do that. And upon our return, there were 2 inches of ice on the stairs and the sidewalk. The day after we returned, Amy had arranged to meet up with a Craigslist to buy a piece of furniture for the house that she had rented, and she was going with her friend, who we will call Lisa, who had also set up a purchase of her own. When Lisa pulled into the driveway, Amy hurriedly ran out the door, slipped on the icy porch steps, and landed on a ceramic planter, cutting her hand open. Now, this wasn't a life or death situation, but there was blood and she did need stitches. She came back in freaking out, and I told her to go wrap it up and have Lisa take her to the emergency room. Meanwhile, Lisa had come to the door to see what the commotion was all about. I told Lisa that she needed to take Amy to the ER, and Lisa actually said to me that she wasn't going to blow off her meetup, saying that I should take her myself instead. But I said emergency room visits are not part of my role anymore. Lisa then actually accused me of mistreating her in some kind of way, but I just sarcastically asked her, okay, well, why do you want to leave your friend for someone who's mistreating you? Ultimately, Lisa left for her meetup, and I packed up the kids and dropped off Amy at the emergency room, and I just let her find her own way home. Now, if you had asked me the next day, I would have said I acted righteously and that Lisa should have stepped up for her friend. But with the clarity of time, I feel that I should have just swallowed my pride and better demonstrated for my kids how a father should act. So seriously, lay it on me. Am I the jerk for the way I handled this? Because right now, I'm not really sure if I made a mistake. Okay, maybe this is brutal, but absolutely not. I don't think you're the jerk. She literally tried to pull a restraining order on you just because she didn't want you living in that house anymore. It's like, dude, you're paying for everything, and she's trying to be like, I want the house, you need to leave. And now she slips and falls because she didn't take care of the sidewalk. Like, dude, this is literally her own fault. And like you said, dude, she's not dying or anything like that. So for her to be like, you're mistreating me, by the way, give me a ride. And it's like, okay, I'll give you a ride, but you're gonna figure your life out otherwise because I got nothing for you. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because I guarantee you if the roles were reversed, she absolutely would never help you out. And that is not fair for you in the slightest. Today, I messed up by lying to my girlfriend about how much I like her cooking, which then has resulted in her family thinking that I'm an amazing chef. And right now, I feel like I'm completely out of my depth, and honestly, I'm starting to panic because my girlfriend's dad has invited me to cook for his birthday next month, and I'm struggling to figure out what I'm gonna do when that day shows up. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been dating my girlfriend for just under a year. She is amazing, she's funny, she's supportive, and honestly, one of the kindest people I've ever met. But early on, she cooked for me, and I would find it terrible. I remember one time she made a smoothie that had a cucumber, yogurt, and garlic in it. But this is where I messed up. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, so I just said it was creative and tasted different, but in a good way. And this sparked something in her, and she just started cooking even more. Then I tried doubling down on the compliments, thinking it would slow down eventually, but it definitely didn't. So now, fast forward to a few months ago, and I made a simple pasta dish at hers. Literally just garlic, olive oil, and chili flakes. Her mom came over mid-meal, tried a bite, and said, "Oh wow, you made this? You must really know your way around a kitchen." I then panicked and I nodded, but my girlfriend smiled and said, "Oh, he's too humble. He always makes stuff for me when I'm sick." And now her whole family thinks that I'm some kind of like secret chef. I've even been invited to cook at her dad's birthday next month. They've even bought me an engraved apron that says my name and then calls me chef on it. So now I've been watching YouTube cooking tutorials at night, trying to learn enough to survive this lie. And the worst part about it is that my girlfriend still cooks for me, and I still fake it every single time. I know I should come clean, but I feel like I've waited so long, and I think it'll just cause chaos. I can't tell if I'm protecting her feelings or if I'm just being a coward, because right now this honestly just really sucks. I would hate being in the middle of this, dude. I cannot cook to save my life, and if someone actually was like, "Oh wow, you can really cook well," and then started like inviting me over places, I would be like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?" And I can't say I wouldn't do what the original poster did. Like, I would just play along and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm a chef, let's do this," and then just secretly watch YouTube videos and be like, "Okay, how do I cook? I really don't know what I'm doing." So hopefully this works out, and hopefully you become that master chef that everybody thinks you actually are, because this is hilarious, and I really wish I could be like a fly on the wall to see how all this goes down. My boyfriend won't let me go over to his house anytime his female housemate happens to be home. And right now I'm starting to get really suspicious that something bad is going on, but I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of background, my boyfriend and I have known each other for a long time, but only became friends around 2 years ago and started dating in March of this year. Now, about a month into dating, my psycho housemate basically kicked me out over the fact that I now had a boyfriend. My boyfriend offered for me to stay with him until the end of my lease in May, because my only other option was to move 2 hours away. Now, I confirmed over and over again that this would be fine for him. And you know what? He insisted. I made it clear that I can't go halfway when it comes to rent, but I would pay for whatever I could, and I would keep up with the cleaning and laundry for him. At this time, he had a housemate who wasn't paying rent and caused him a lot of stress. So when that came to a very dramatic head, the housemate was kicked out and my boyfriend started the search for a new housemate. About a month or two goes by and things are tense with my boyfriend and I. He seems to be resenting me and his space and his lack of freedom, but even still, I confirm that he's okay with me staying there until I get my bond back, and again, he insists that it's fine. But right now, I'm starting to be unhappy too, because it's hard not to be in that situation. But I finally found a new place for myself, and I have about 2 weeks to move in. And also at this point, I had started paying half of the rent at my boyfriend's place, along with continuing to look after the house. When I have about 3 days left before I can move, I'm walking from work to my boyfriend's house, and he calls me to say that someone's moved in and that I shouldn't freak out when there's stuff there. Now, I was excited for him because he's been so stressed out about it. And when I asked too, he said, "Oh, it's just a girl from work." And I thought to myself, okay, that's completely fine. I do know he spent quality time with most of the girls from his work, if you know what I mean. And this is all before we started dating, but that hasn't bothered me up until this point. The next day, I come home to his house, and the new housemate has kicked my clothes out of the way. And I would have cleaned them up before I left, had I known that she was moving more stuff that day. But I just got no warning at all. After that, things became strained between my boyfriend and I, and basically, I didn't like how things were being handled, and I noticed that he was being really guarded. We ended up breaking up for a week because everything was so heightened, but we talked it out and got back together again. And now the month or so that we've been back together has been absolutely great, and we've gone out and done a lot of fun things. However, I have not learned a single thing about his housemate, and he has made it clear that he's not comfortable having me over when she's home. One night, him and I were out and I asked if I could come back to his place, and he said no because the girls from his work were all drinking at his house, and he spent quality time with most of them, so he said that would make him uncomfortable. He also said he wants to keep his work life and private life separate. I then commented that maybe he should not have moved in with someone from work, but he responded by saying, "Oh, I had no choice. This conversation's over." Ever since then, we haven't discussed the situation further, even though he knows I find it odd. Now, I can't accept the situation as it is. No matter what his reasoning is, I feel stupid for trying to pretend the situation doesn't bother me. I don't want our relationship to end because I do actually trust him and I love being with him. I just refuse to be in this situation anymore. I find it embarrassing and naive to accept it at face value, and at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update that they would like to share, and honestly, things get incredibly weird. Here's what she had to say. Okay, I want to start off by saying that yes, I get it, I'm very stupid. I will add though, I am allowed in his house when she's not there, so I have seen that his room doesn't have any women's belongings in there, even when it's a last-minute stop-in. When we first started dating, he introduced me to everyone in his life. I met people he worked with, just not the girls. He never tried to hide me away. He brought me to Easter with his parents, and outside of this situation, there's nothing he's done to make me question him. I didn't move into his house when he needed a new housemaid because it was too much for both of us, and we both agreed we wanted a chance at dating before we jumped into living together immediately. There is a chance this girl's a lesbian if she's the coworker he says she is, but I'm honestly starting to question that as well. We go out 3 times a week and he stays over at my house, and the only nights I don't see him is when either of us are working nights. So honestly, at this point, I feel very confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, believe it or not, we have one last update from the original poster because they said at the top of their post that yes, they did in fact break up with him, which, oh my gosh, that is the best outcome in my opinion because your boyfriend absolutely was cheating on you. You simply can't tell me otherwise. Not to mention the fact that he's literally slept with everybody from his work, and now one of them lives in the house who he probably also slept with. So good for you for making the right choice because this was incredibly sketchy. My entitled father is demanding that I pay him back for all the child support he paid me while I was growing up. And I'm honestly blown away that he's trying to pull this stuff on me, especially because he thinks that because I have a job now, I'm somehow rich and I can afford it, putting me in a situation that is completely ridiculous. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm a little bit fuzzy on the details now, as I do have some blocked memories about this, but I remember one day after working at a restaurant from basically 6 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night, while also having no lunch, barista, bartender, server, or dish pig, my dad cornered me and said that since I'm so rich, which by the way, I wasn't, I was a manager making less than the junior staff, I should pay him back on all the child support my mother stole from him. He then showed me the letter letters that he kept, and with the way he went on and on over the year, I expected it to be thousands per month. And sure, I went to a private school, but they chose to send me there before they even got divorced. The plan had originally been for me to go there from pre-primary, but they missed the cutoff, so I went from year 7 until 12. Also, the cost for the school was done separately, completely outside of child support. So what it was used for was for uniforms, swimming lessons, healthcare, and a phone plan until I turned 16. Then I paid for my own with help from my mom to top it off occasionally, as I used my phone as a hotspot so my sister could do homework. Because after all, my dad didn't want to pay for Wi-Fi, as he said we would just waste it, which trust me is a long story in and of itself. The rest they just dealt with on their own and just paid for it if it was their week. And so basically he didn't pay anything, maybe like $20 per week for 2 kids. For a year, I listened to him guilt trip me on this and try to twist us against our mom. And you know what? Sometimes it worked. He would sometimes say he couldn't even afford food because of us. All that to find out he paid practically nothing. He worked as a locksmith and then a motorbike mechanic in a specialized area. And then he went right back to being a locksmith. I'm in contact with him now, obviously, and my sister lives with him still, but we're fine. She comes over to stay at my place pretty often, mostly just so she can get Wi-Fi for once. But she prefers dads to moms as she has issues with our mom, which also is another longer story. He even just took my sister on a week-long trip to Bali, you know, with all expenses paid. She's 20 years old and hasn't had a job for over a year. And when I last lived with him, I was the cook, the cleaner, the caretaker of my sister, the dog walker, and the person putting myself in the middle deliberately to avoid hospital visits and animal mistreatment. But yeah, my dad is literally a begging man-child, and I'm honestly so sick of him. Yeah, your dad's super immature, like that's really obnoxious. This guy literally tried to act like you're the problem when it comes to him paying child support. But it's like, dude, that's not my fault, that's on you. You're the one that has to deal with that, not me. Sorry for existing, I guess, but like if you didn't want to marry mom, then maybe you shouldn't have gotten married in the first place. And I just love the fact that he's like, oh yeah, you're gonna pay me back all this money for child support. You're rich, you could do that. Meanwhile, this idiot literally didn't pay hardly anything. He was clearly an absent father in your life and wouldn't even give you Wi-Fi for God's sakes. Like, what's going on with that? That's not a waste of money. That's literally like a utility at this point in today's day and age. Why would you not have that so that people can do their work and actually like participate in society? That's really dumb and just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, you don't owe your dad anything. He's being incredibly stupid. And if I was in your shoes, I definitely would not pay that any mind, because I think you described him perfectly. He absolutely sounds like a massive man-child that would be super annoying to deal with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to translate for my parents after my brother moved back in and took over my role in the house? Because right now my parents are pissed, but I just really don't care. Because at this point, I'm honestly just so exhausted. Here's what's going on. I'm a 19-year-old female and I am the only one in my family who is fluent in English. My parents immigrated when I was a baby, and my older brother, who's 22, moved back to our home country when he was about 10 years old to be raised by our grandparents. And he recently moved back in with us after 12 years abroad. For most of my life, I've been the one handling everything for my parents, filling out forms, translating at appointments, reading legal documents, talking to banks, scheduling anything. I've done this since I was about 11 years old and it was exhausting. But honestly, I didn't question it because I knew they needed help. But since my brother came back, things have changed. He speaks decent English now. Not perfect, but enough to help out. Except here's the thing, he doesn't help. He just acts like he's too good for it. And somehow my parents act like he's the golden child. They dote on him, they praise him constantly, and now they only speak to me when they need something. A week ago, they asked me to take time off of work to translate an immigration appointment for my mom. I said that I couldn't because I had a shift I couldn't miss, and I suggested they ask my brother instead. My mom then just said, oh, he's not used to this stuff, it's easier with you. And when she said this, I snapped a little. I said to her, yeah, because I've been forced to do it for years. I told them I was tired of being treated like a tool just because I happen to speak English better, especially now that they have another adult child living here. My dad told me that I was being ungrateful and that family helps without complaining. And since then, they've been completely cold to me. My brother then said I was being dramatic and that it's not his fault that they trust me more. But it's not about trust. It's that they've literally never even asked him. I've missed school, I've missed work, I've even missed social events just to translate for them. Meanwhile, he's been here like 3 months and hasn't lifted a finger. anymore. Now, at this point, I do feel guilty. I don't want to abandon them, but I also don't want to keep carrying this alone just because I was born here and he wasn't. So am I the jerk for refusing to be their translator anymore? Because right now I'm honestly so frustrated that I just don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I think someone pointed out something hilarious in the comment section, and it's the way your dad said, oh, family helps without complaining. Because if that really is the case, then guess what? The brother can help out and there shouldn't be any complaining. Like seriously, what's going on right now? If they really feel that way, then go to the brother and be like, no, family helps without complaining. We need help translating stuff. Because you're absolutely right. You've done this since you were like, what, 12 years old, 11 years old or something like that? It's obnoxious that they're still making you do that after all these years. So yeah, I think your brother absolutely should be stepping up, and I don't blame you for being like, no, I need a break from this. Because doing this for almost a decade would literally drive just about anybody insane. And for the sake of your own happiness and sanity, I definitely think it's time for your brother to step in. A guy that I'm talking to got arrested on video call with me last night, and even though he's made some mistakes, I still feel like I'm in love with him, but I'm not sure if this is the right move to make or if I'm just being naive. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I met this guy online and we instantly clicked. We've only been talking for a couple of days, but we really connected. We shared trauma, reassured each other, and it felt pretty real. He is my type, he says all the right things, and I honestly feel like I'm falling for this guy. Last night we were supposed to call at about 10 o'clock, but he didn't show until about 1 in the morning. He explained why he was late, and apparently his ex has a restraining order against him, and she saw him at a gas station and ended up calling the cops. He said the restraining order came from a past argument where she got scared and sprayed him with bear spray. When the police showed up, he admitted that he felt like hurting himself and ended up in a psychiatric hold longer than expected due to a name error, and he even has an ankle monitor. I offered to call with him as a distraction, but about an hour in, he said, oh, the police are back, give me a second, and I just said, oh, stay safe, and he said, all right, I love you. Now, we would obviously have never said that before, so I was completely stunned, and at this point, he had already taken out his headphones so he couldn't hear me. Then I saw a cop enter the room, and he came up to the camera and showed the handcuffs and said to me, I'm getting arrested, and I said, oh gosh, and then the cop shut off his PC and the call ended. I found his mugshot and record, and he's being held for violating a domestic no-contact order, and is listed as probable cause, and I haven't heard from him ever since this happened. My friends are telling me to run and that this is love bombing or manipulation, but I just don't know. He was open with me about it all, and I genuinely feel worried more than anything. I know it sounds crazy, but I just don't know if I'm being naive. So is it okay that I still care for this guy, or is there something that I need to do? Because right now I feel incredibly lost. Dude, I don't understand people. Seriously, the second I hear that they have like an ankle monitor and they've got a restraining order from their ex after they got bear sprayed by them, like, dude, this is like one red flag after another. Why are you with this guy? Because yeah, your friends are right. This guy's starting the engine of manipulation and you're just like sitting there being like, oh my gosh, I love him so much. He's the right person for me. He understands me. He's saying all the right things. He's my type. It's like, dude, what's your type? Like a criminal? Because that's not a type you want to deal with. This guy's gonna drag you down to the gutter with him and be like, oh, I love you so much. Meanwhile, he's gonna take everything from you. Like, dude, what are we doing here? Your dream guy has a restraining order and an ankle monitor, and he literally got arrested on camera. And the only thing you're thinking about is like, oh man, that's the first time he ever said, I love you. I can't believe it. I'm stunned right now. Instead of watching him literally get tackled to the ground and handcuffed. Like, dude, if I saw that, I'd be like, okay, I don't think this is worth it. See ya. So yeah, you're being very naive. You're absolutely falling for the wrong guy, and you could do way better than this. Because what this guy's offering is absolutely nothing, and this is literally only going to cause you harm. My entitled roommate steals the room I was planning on taking, despite the fact that I was paying extra just to have that room in the first place. So I decided to get some revenge when I moved out by leaving a massive dog turd in the middle of his bed and also putting dead fish in his wardrobe and in the pockets of his suits. Here's how I did it. Many years ago when I was a student, I spent my final year renting a room in a shared house which had about 8 bedrooms, which were each individually rented out by the agency. All of the other people in the house had graduated the previous year and had stayed in the city and got jobs, so I was the only student. Now, some of them knew each other and some of them didn't. I paid for a larger room on the first floor, but when I came to move in, it had already been taken by someone else who wasn't even there at the moment. So I moved into a smaller room on the ground floor. It was good enough for me and I was happy enough in that room for the year, but here's the kicker. I was paying approximately $40 a month more for the room I wasn't getting. The guy who took the room was hardly ever around, as he had a girlfriend he stayed with. And when he did come in, he went straight to the big room and didn't speak to anybody. I left left him notes to ask about him paying the extra money for the room, as he wasn't supposed to be in that one, but he ignored them all and never came to speak to me. It didn't really ruin my year, as I had already been so busy with work and just trying to get my final exams done, but when it came close to time for me to move out, I tried to talk to him again, and he did the classic move where he was like, "I'm just gonna head out, but when I come back, we can sort it out later." And of course, later didn't come, and when the day came for me to leave, he was of course nowhere to be found. So I decided to get some petty revenge by literally having a dog crap on his bed. Just one big massive dog turd right in the middle of it. I also put a few smelly fish in his wardrobe and in the pockets of his suits, and I really wish I'd been there to see his face when he got back, which probably was several days later, just to see how he reacted to the smell, because this guy absolutely deserved it. Okay, first of all, I love this revenge. I think it's hilarious in my opinion, but I really hope you were not expected to pay for that room. You quite literally were not staying there. That cost falls on that guy and not you. The original poster basically said that they didn't go to the agency or report the guy because at the time they were only 21 years old and they're just trying to get through their final year in college. And I totally get that, like I really do, but it wouldn't have taken that much time to be like, okay, I'm gonna report this guy and he's absolutely moving out of there. Because if you're the one paying for it, then you deserve to stay there, regardless of what anybody else might have to say. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my brother use my car during his stay, even though he supposedly came up here to help me out after I had a minor knee surgery? Because right now I am very frustrated and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old female and I recently had minor knee surgery. This was not super serious, but enough to make it difficult just to get around. I live alone in an apartment about 30 minutes from the city center. My older brother offered to come stay with me for a week to help out while I recover. He lives about 4 hours away and we don't see each other super often, so I thought this was a really kind gesture. When he arrived, he asked if he could use my car here and there, and I said sure, assuming it would be for errands or picking things up for the apartment. But almost immediately, he started using it constantly, meeting up with friends, going to the gym, shopping, and just driving around to clear his head. I found myself stuck at home, limited in what I could do, and twice had to order takeout because he wasn't around when I needed help grabbing something. He also never asked before taking the car, and I noticed the gas was running low really quickly, and despite that, he still hasn't even filled it once. Well, yesterday I told him I didn't feel comfortable with him using the car like this. I reminded him that he came under the pretense of helping me, not using this as a free week with my car. He then got super upset and said I was being ungrateful and that he took time off of work to be here and was doing his absolute best, and since I can't even drive right now, it shouldn't be a big deal. Well, he's barely said a word to me ever since then. I mentioned the situation to our mom and she sided with him, saying that I'm being dramatic and that I should be appreciative since he made the effort to come along. But the thing is, if he had just told me up front, oh, I want to come and stay for a week and use your car to get around, I still probably would have said no. I feel like he misrepresented his intentions, and now I'm the one stuck feeling like an inconvenience in my own apartment. So seriously, am I the jerk for putting my foot down about my car? Because right now I'm seriously still pissed off. No, you are definitely not the jerk here. Your brother is taking advantage of you and that is not fair. Seriously, this guy's running around all over the place and the gas is getting low and he's using the car to drive around just to clear his head. He's like, dude, what are you doing? That's not helping me in the slightest. If you need to drive around to clear your head, then you clearly are not the person for the job and taking care of me. Like, you had knee surgery, dude. You can't do anything right now. And this guy's trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go, drive and clear my head or go to the gym and hang out with friends and all this other crap. So truly, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. I would have told him straight up, I'm sorry, this is not working and I think you need to go home. Because obviously he is not here to take care of you, and that really sucks in my opinion. An entitled idiot used my email address in a store that literally I had nothing to do with. So I decided to get some petty revenge by setting up an account behind their back and spending all of their loyalty reward points on cat treats. Here's what happened. Back in 2021, I started getting random emails from Tractor Supply asking me to rate my order. Now, I'm in the United Kingdom, so I had no clue what Tractor Supply was, but it turns out that they're in the United States and they don't even sell tractors. When the first email arrived, I thought it was probably a mistake. The customer making the purchase at Tractor Supply may have just given the wrong email address at checkout. I got in very early with Gmail, so my email address is very simple. It's understandable someone might have just made a mistake once or twice, but the emails kept coming. The simple solution would have been just to block the Tractor Supply emails. But I was feeling a little bit more petty, especially in exchange for using my email address to send spam to. Well, it turns out I could create a a Tractor Supply account on the website, even though I don't live in the United States. And when I created the account with my email address, it connected my new account with the in-store loyalty profile this idiot has been using my email address for. I could see the full history of all their in-store purchases, from dog collars to cement, etc. When you make a purchase at Tractor Supply, you get points back on your loyalty account that you can then use to activate a reward. Well, the perpetrator was waiting until they reached enough points to get a $10 discount off of their next purchase. One of the other rewards you can buy with loyalty points is a voucher for a bag of cat treats. So now every time I get an email from Tractor Supply about a new purchase, I log into my account and I exchange my newly assigned loyalty points with a voucher for a bag of cat treats. The account currently has 8 accrued vouchers, and it's now turned into a game of how many cat treat vouchers can I get before they notice. I don't know how it works in store or if there's a limit on how many you can have, but I'm secretly hoping on a future purchase, the perpetrator is then asked if they want their 20 free bags of cat treats added to their order, and only then will they finally realize that they probably shouldn't have used a random petty stranger's email address, because this clearly is not going to work out for them. Okay, I love this because this really is a unique way of like getting revenge on someone, because yeah, I totally get it. Some people just make the mistake and they're like, okay, I didn't mean to put in the wrong email address, but here we are anyways. But even then, I just think it's so funny that you could literally go through the trouble of making an email address and just screwing with all of their loyalty reward points. Like, that's hilarious if you ask me, and I love the fact that you did this, especially without them knowing. Because if they don't have a cat, then my god, they're going to be very confused when they try to redeem any kind of reward. Am I overreacting after my husband's boss refused to return my partner's $40,000 in tools after he quit? Because even though the police are involved and we literally tried to handle this as respectfully as possible, we still are facing no resolution of any kind, leaving me and my husband in a weird situation as he literally can't do his job without these tools in his life. Here's what's going on. So my partner recently quit his job after months of tension and disrespect from his boss. He was constantly belittled, being told things like, oh, you're a one-year red seal, or I just don't need the attitude, and having his professional input dismissed in favor of random opinions from others. The breaking point came when the boss brought in some marketing people who owns a franchise, so you'd think the parent company would handle this, who were filming TikToks and spreading misinformation. My partner calmly corrected something that was wrong, and the boss flew off the handle, saying he was being disrespectful in front of staff. He told my partner to take the day off, and my partner said, if this is a fight, I quit, and the boss just doubled down, telling him to take the whole week off. So my partner quit clearly and calmly. Before leaving, he told the boss he'd be back at the end of the day for his tools. He separated the shop stuff from his own and locked up his personal toolbox, which holds about $40,000 worth of tools. This is his career and his livelihood. After he left, the boss started texting him. He was saying things like, I'm sorry, I really care, and then immediately started reaching out to a mutual friend, trying to get my phone number, even getting upset when they wouldn't give it to him because I had said no. But we stayed firm in the text messages. We're coming today for the tools, and this is not optional. It's how our family survives. We have 2 kids and I'm disabled and not working after nearly dying from an infection after giving birth. I had what's called sepsis, and this really messed up my leg and left me unable to work. These tools aren't just expensive, they are literally everything. We then called the non-emergency police line to have someone there to keep the peace, and the officer saw the text messages, including the boss admitting the tools were my partner's and agreeing to a pickup time. But when we arrived, the boss suddenly refused to let him in. The front desk staff gave the office the wrong number to the boss's rep, so we had to provide the actual number ourselves. The rep, apparently a relative, said that my partner wasn't allowed on the property anymore. Like, they literally are just playing games at this point. The police officer, who was honestly great, said the whole thing was incredibly stupid, but his hands are tied and told us to call again the next day. So now we're sitting here, still without the tools after trying to handle everything respectfully. We didn't escalate, we just want his stuff back. So am I overreacting by feeling completely violated and furious that they're holding his tools hostage like this? Should he be allowed to just leave his business during the hours and just, I don't know, decide when my husband gets to work? Because right now I'm freaking out and I don't know what to do. You're not overreacting. If anything, you're underreacting. This guy is literally holding your tools hostage, and in my opinion, it's time to up the ante. And I'm not telling you what to do. Like, I can only speak for myself, but if I was in your shoes, I would immediately start looking for a lawyer, because what's happening right now is completely unacceptable. Like, this is not only unprofessional, but it's also like them literally stealing from you and your husband. But also, if I can be completely blunt with your husband, why on earth would he ever leave that place without getting those tools first? If that really cost him $40,000 to have, and he can't do his his job without them, why would he ever be like, I'll pick him up later? Especially if he knows how toxic these people are. His workplace is clearly volatile, like what's going on right now? Talk about a lapse in judgment, like that was really not a smart thing for him to do. He should have taken the tools with him and run out the door, like don't even pretend like they're gonna let you back in. Because look at what's happening, dude. These people suck. They're trying to hold those tools and be like, oh, you can't come in here ever again. Sorry, can't let you in. And of course the cops are like, I can't do anything. I mean, just call back tomorrow, I guess. Because this is insane in my opinion. He even tried to get the original poster's phone number just to berate them and be like, I really do care. I'm sorry. Like this is some crazy behavior, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would take it to the next level to make sure I get back what is rightfully mine. Because the way they're acting right now is completely unfair, and you and your family do not deserve this in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.